And hello again, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of My Isolation Podcast, one of the best media-related podcasts you've probably never heard of until right now. My name is Connor. Thank you so much for tuning in. And today we'll finally be talking about the massive hit of the summer, Deadpool and Wolverine. It's been a long time coming. I've seen this film twice now, but I couldn't do it alone, so I needed a guest with me. Luckily, I found this guy. He was a bit of a wanderer, shall we say, a hermitage wanderer, shall we say. Found him wandering outside my house earlier today, so I was like, yo, come join me. I'm joking. That's not true at all. We're not even in the same place, but I've got a filmmaker, director, writer, Dan McGee with me.
Hey, very good, man. Thanks for having me.
That's all right, mate.
And it's partly true. I was wandering outside your place, but just dying to talk about this film. That's what it is.
Oh yeah, exactly, mate. How many times have you seen this film, Dan?
I've seen it twice.
Oh, so the same as me, yeah.
Yes, I've seen it opening weekend because of all the spoilers that could come about. I had to see it within the first couple of days, and then I was just so excited to see it again.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So I went again.
That's pretty much the same with me. I went after work because I think it was the day after it came out, but I was like logged off all social media because I was like, I'm not having this spoiled for me. It was like Spider-Man No Way Home or Avengers Endgame, where it's like I ain't having shit being spoiled for me here.
Unfortunately, with this, I did have some of the cameos spoiled for me.
Ah, shit.
It just came up randomly on YouTube Shorts, so I didn't even have to go out my way to search for it. It just came up. But I went with my girlfriend who didn't know any of the spoilers, so I was kind of excited to see her reaction. I was kind of living through her, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, no, I get that. Yeah, you're living through her experience, basically.
Yes.
Like her excitement and being like, oh my God, there's all these people here and it's going to be amazing.
Especially when you're brought up on some of the films that are referenced or people who are in it.
Yeah,
I'm assuming this is going to be a spoiler throughout.
I was about to say,
if you haven't seen it yet, I mean, it's made $1 billion. The second film of the year to make $1 billion, and it's the second film of the year that made $1 billion in which I actually know people who went to see it. Because I don't know anyone who went to see Inside Out 2, and that made $1.5 billion.
Oh wow! I mean, I went to see Inside Out 2, so
you're the first one.
First one, yeah.
Well done, Connor.
Yeah, nah, it's all right, mate. But yeah, so yeah, this is gonna be full of spoilers. So if you've been able to avoid all the spoilers for Deadpool until now, fuck off and go see the film.
Yeah, where do you live?
Sorry,
where do you live to not have this spoiled for you already?
A cave, I imagine. Like a rock.
I mean, there's still Wi-Fi signals in caves, I'm sure.
Maybe they've got the 4G turned off or something. They've got the 4G. But yeah, like if you've been able to avoid spoilers till now, get out and go see it. Come back and then listen to this because we've got a lot to say on this. So first of all, Dan, do you want to introduce yourself? Like, what do you do? Because you're a filmmaker and director, writer, essay performer.
A bit of everything, really. Jack of all trades, master of none. I'm a part-time cleaner of schools, part-time filmmaker, but full-time film buff. That's the way I look at it. So yeah, I have done a bit of writing and directing, acting for about 10 years now.
Nice.
Obviously, I met you at university when I was doing a special effects makeup course, which I've not really ddone since then. I just kind of do a bit of everything, really. Anything to keep busy and keep me out of the normal day job.
Yeah. If you want to feel really old, Dan, you and I met 10 years ago. Over. Like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
It does make me feel old, to be honest.
It really does, doesn't it? Like I was 18 when I met you. I'm now 29. So it's like,
oh wow.
Yeah, that's just the big time gap there we've had. But yeah, no, and you've got a new short film coming out, which we'll promote more at the end. At the end of this podcast. Yeah, nice one. Because obviously this is Deadpool 3. This is spinning off from the previous X-Men films that have come out in the past. Because obviously this film is more a ending to the Fox era. And I've already explained my thoughts on the Fox era. I did an X-Men retrospective, which at the start of this year, which you can go back and listen to. But Darren, what's your thoughts on the previous Fox X-Men films and the first two Deadpool films as well?
Sure. Yeah. So again, I went back and rewatched all of these leading up to Deadpool and Wolverine. There's something very nostalgic to me about that era of the early 2000s to the first Iron Man, really, 2008. Um, I consider them guilty pleasures. So even films like Daredevil, The Punisher
Mm,
with Thomas Jane, these are films that I do like unironically.
mm,
But I think that the Fox X-Men films are the perfect example of a superhero franchise with a mixed bag, where the best examples in the franchise are some of the best superhero films you can get, like Days of Future Past. And yet, when they're bad, they're really bad, like
mm,
Apocalypse or X Men Origins Wolverine, which is quite appropriate that we have a faithful Deadpool film
mm,
with the Ryan Reynolds three films that he did as Deadpool. The first Deadpool film, I think, is like a proof of concept where I think it works as a really good fan film.
mm,
Um, the second one, less so. I think it kind of becomes the film that it's trying to parody.
mm.
Um, Although I think they did get a good director with the action sequences and the visuals. But yeah, the first one, although I do like them, I do think that it is somewhat of a fan film, a proof of concept piece. And now with Deadpool and Wolverine, I think in terms of the formula for where this can go, they have perfected it when you look back on the first few Deadpool films.
Yeah, it's like they've developed the formula over time, and they've now got it correct with like spot on with this one in a way.
Yes, agreed.
Mm. Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah. So, I mean, should we say our overall thoughts on the film, and then before delving straight into it?
Do it. I mean,
Yeah,
I can gather what your opinion is of this, Connor, because
mm,
I've sat with you, like I say, 10 years ago. We went
yeah.
to see Amazing Spider Man 2
Oh
and
God.
we went to see Thor the Dark World. But you weren't saying that when we saw it.
No,
I,
no.
I was sat next to you and you loved it
Yeah,
coming out. Both of them.
yeah,
I know
yeah.
you
Oh
did. And
no.
I was saying, let's wait, test the time, let's see what happens. And now,
Mm.
universally, they're not looked at as being great.
No,
Um,
no. Well, Amazing Spider-Man 2, I had mixed I remember having mixed feelings on that one when I first saw it. I wasn't really sure like if I actually liked it or not. Because there were things in it that I really loved. There were things in it I really hated. But over
mhm.
time, I've come to terms with the fact that yeah, this was a bad film. And then with Fall of the Dark World, yeah, I came out of it. I think at that time I just wanted to love everything
I,
Marvel
I,
related.
I think, yeah, I mean, I look back on films that I liked then,
Mm,
certainly superhero films where
yeah,
you go, yeah, maybe I was wrong with that.
yeah, like Fall of the Dark World is just boring as fuck.
Uh-huh. But as
Yeah.
for Deadpool and Wolverine,
Uh,
yeah, I loved it. I
oh, yeah.
thought it was really good. People that I've spoke to who aren't necessarily comic book fans have all enjoyed it. It's a good, solid 3-star film. I don't think it's as good as it could have been, but it's as good as it needed to be.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely loved it. I thought it was. I just thought it was really. I don't know. I thought the humor was really on point. It was just good seeing Deadpool back on screen after like being away for nearly 6 years. So
And Hugh Jackman, obviously.
and Jackman as well. Yeah, I was a little bit hesitant on when Hugh Jackman got announced back in 2022, just because I felt like Logan was such a good ending to that time of his life, and being like, oh no, he's coming back again. But I did like how they handled Hugh Jackman in this film. To be honest, and it was good seeing him again after all, after so many years. I think almost longer than last time we saw Deadpool. I think about 7 years after we saw Deadpool, but after Deadpool 2. Um, but yeah, no, I thought it was really good. The cameos were good. The fan service was right on point. But at the same time, I feel like it didn't really it didn't alienate people because that's kind of been a big problem. I think with the one of the problems with the MCU anyway, and just films in general. Like Star Wars has this issue where they've relied so heavily on the past that I think in a way it alienates the casual viewer. So it was one of those things where I walked out of it feeling like I think a casual viewer will definitely walk in and not be too confused at what's going on or anything like that, and maybe even catch some of the cameos like Chris Evans as Johnny Storm, seeing all the previous X-Men characters like Toad and Pyro back again as well as seeing all the like the little thing they did in the credits where they had all the B-roll footage behind the scenes of the Foxmen, which did really which brought a tear to my eye. I can't lie.
Well,
Um,
we went to see Green Day earlier this year. So when I was in the cinema
mm,
with Zoe, my girlfriend, she's a big
mm,
Green Day fan. So, and also a big fan of those old superhero films. So it was
mm.
quite emotional. The ending, it was like a farewell to the good times.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Except for the fact that they're definitely coming back for Secret Wars. I don't. There's no doubt about it. Like they'll be
Well,
back.
we'll see if it's Mahershala Ali or if it's Wesley Snipes. We'll see what happens.
Oof, we'll see what happens with Blade. We'll talk about Blade towards the end, I think. Um, yeah. So yeah, overall, I thought it was really well. But yeah, we'll delve more into my thoughts now. Is that the first thing? Is that how do we think this fit into the MCU? Because that was one of the big talking points when Disney bought Fox. Was that how are they going to integrate Deadpool into the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Because we knew it was going to happen eventually. Like there was no way Marvel was just going to bury him into the ground. And the first two Deadpool films made so much money that Marvel Studios and Disney want to cash in on that extra on the extra cash. So it's cashing on the extra cash. What the fuck does that even mean? Jesus Christ.
It makes
Uh,
perfect sense.
it makes perfect fucking sense. Yeah, no, they wanted to cash in on that, and that's one of the reasons why the film took so long because I think originally Fox. I don't know how. I think I heard about this on Heavy Spoilers show, so I'm not 100% sure how true this is, but apparently Disney weren't sure if they wanted to keep the R rating or not. Want to steer away from
I
it.
think there was issues with the studio having the rights still to some of the characters.
Yeah,
I
exactly. Yeah,
think there was obviously the writer's strike in Hollywood that
yeah.
greatly
What?
affected the shoots.
Mm.
I'm assuming the lockdowns as well had a big impact on
Yeah.
pre-production.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's just one of those things where, again, but that was one of the talking points back in 2019 when the acquisition finally got finished was how are you going to integrate him? He's more R-rated. Everyone else is PG-13. Yeah, I never saw it as a big issue. I was like, just have him be R-rated in the MCU because that can add a new, fresh perspective to it. You can have a little bit more raunchier, more louder, more ruder jokes. You can have MCU characters act in a way we've never seen them act before, like Johnny Storm in this movie. He in the Fantastic Four films, he's more PG. In this one, especially in the end credit scene, the big monologue that he's describing Cassandra Nova is just that was just hilarious. Like seeing
Perfect.
that PG-13
I
character.
think, not to cut you off, but on
No,
the
it's right.
the idea of being able to swear, I think that's why Hugh Jackman has had more fun as Wolverine with this because he is able to swear, not just a random "go fuck yourself" in a bar, but there's
Mm.
a moment obviously in the car before the big fight scene between Wolverine and Deadpool, or in the van,
Yeah.
sorry, when he gives this big emotional speech and he can swear in it, so he has that freedom where he's not restrained to just one swear per PG
Mm.
PG rate, hang on, PG-13 film or
Yeah.
12 in the UK.
Yeah. No, yeah, definitely, yeah. But yeah, the fact that again, like you listen to that speech, like I've seen that speech told so many times on the Instagram reels and things like that, and it's just one of those things um, where like it's so emotional and powerful and impactful, and the idea that the fact that he can actually swear in it now is that does make a big impact. Particularly
Sure.
at the end when he's like, motherfucker, it's a joke that you can't die, but that's on all of us. Or one of God's best jokes.
Put that in his acting show reel. Not that he needs one, but that's
Oh,
the
good.
bit you'd use as Hugh Jackman.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But overall, I think they integrated him well into the MCU. I think they played it really well. I really love the opening sequence. I think the opening sequence is a great example where he's fighting the TVA agents, and there's so much blood and there's so much gore, and that's essentially just them saying we're not pussing out. Like we are actually like going hard on with this.
Mhm.
Nothing's changed. We're the same as we always were, and that to me, and it fit in really well. It felt like the more adult MCU, the one that only the grown-ups can go watch, while everything else is more for the family in a way. What about you? How did you think they integrated him into the MCU well?
I think they've yet to do that. I think they've integrated predominantly the TVA from the Loki season
Mm.
into the MCU, which I don't think we've had done yet. Um,
Yeah.
I think it's more of a closing chapter to the Fox era than it is Deadpool integrated into the MCU.
Okay.
I think when you go back to 2014 and you come out of Captain America Winter Soldier, which was this serious espionage thriller,
Mm.
and you go from that to Guardians of the Galaxy, I find it strange that I could see those two characters or those two properties combining for an Avengers film than I can actually having Deadpool in an Avengers film. I
Okay.
just can't really see that. Now, you could have him as cameos, similar that you would have Stan Lee.
Yeah.
I think personally, it's a way in which the writers can take the piss out of the things which didn't work previously. So
Mm.
when a big event in our world happens, I'm talking in real life now, not in the
Yeah.
films, you know that South Park is going to have a field day with that.
Mm.
And I feel that if something doesn't work in the MCU, they could use Deadpool as an example of taking the piss out of that. Similar to what they tried to do with the end of She Hulk, which didn't work.
Mm.
I also think how they're going to do this is similar to what they did with the Abbott and Costello films, where you would have these two this comedic duo interacting with characters from other horror properties. So if you'll have Abbott and Costello meet Dracula, and you will have Bela Lugosi come back and play Dracula, and they will do this kind of incidental comedy film which works as both a comedy film and as a horror film. You'll then have Boris Karloff come back and do Frankenstein. So there was a series of Abbott and Costello meets, and then whoever, the Invisible Man, the Wolf Man, whatever. And it was a long running series through the late 30s, mid 40s, maybe.
Mm.
I think what we're going to get with Deadpool is Deadpool and Wolverine. We might then get Deadpool and the Avengers, or
Yeah.
Deadpool and
Mm.
Spider Man. I don't think he will play a big part in the Avengers films, but I
Mm.
think that the Avengers films will play a big part in the future Deadpool films that we'll get.
Yeah, that's how I think they'll probably do it, teaming up with like another Marvel character, like you say, like maybe Spider Man or even like Captain America, or I could totally see them pairing him up with like War Machine or somebody. Just I love the idea of like Ryan Reynolds just absolutely annoying the fuck out of Don Cheadle, and just seeing like his reactions to like just being like, please just shut the
That's
fuck
what you want. You want to see these reactions because I think a lot of the humor following the first Avengers film with Joss Whedon kind of became very quippy. I know
Yeah.
Joss Whedon rewrote part of Thor: The Dark World, so the humor kind of felt the same.
Mm.
Where Doctor Strange kind of became just another version of Tony Stark with the quips. He didn't really feel like a separate character.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that could apply to various different ones. Whereas when you have Ryan Reynolds, who has essentially played this role his whole career,
Mm.
you look at him in The Green Lantern, or I think a more faithful Deadpool film than X Men Origins Wolverine is probably Blade Trinity, where he plays Hannibal King.
Mm.
He's basically playing a variation of Deadpool because it fits his character. So
Yeah.
the fact that you're able to have an actor come in who also writes his own lines, I think changes it from the fact that we're kind of getting a bit familiar with the humor that we've had in the MCU, where it was Joss Whedon, and then it kind of came to James Gunn, and everyone was trying to do that humor, James Gunn humor. And I think that's kind of affected other blockbusters in a way, where so many films now are trying to emulate that action comedy routine that the MCU films had. Whereas Deadpool, because it is R rated, it feels like a film you'd go to with your mates, have a few beers, and it just feels separate from the MCU that we've had recently.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, it did add a very unique and fresh perspective almost to the MCU because obviously they've not done an R-rated film before. I know that Blade is allegedly supposed to be R-rated if that film comes out in
Come on,
2026.
that's not coming out.
No,
There's only
no,
one Blade. There's
there's
only
only
ever going to
one.
be one Blade,
There will, yeah,
except for the TV series, which they forgot to talk about.
yeah. I mean, I think we'll probably leave the TV series alone. It was his own thing. It was
Yeah.
his own thing. It's a loose adaptation. Um, yeah. So, what about the humor? Did you think? Speaking of humor, did you think the humor in this film worked for the most part? Were you happy with it, or do you think that maybe there could have been some tweaking or changes that you felt
I,
needed?
no,
Yeah.
I think the humor worked really well. I've
Mm.
heard some people, um, because obviously the current state of certain franchises, certainly if you go down the rabbit hole on YouTube, they talk about woke Hollywood and pushing certain agendas. And I think some of these people might talk about perhaps the forced um, homosexuality between Wolverine and Deadpool, which, I mean, yeah, you could see that, but I think that's just what Deadpool is. He's just kind of
I
always
mean,
been that.
canonically in the comic books, I think they say he's pansexual or something like that. But
I mean,
even
regardless of
yeah,
what he is, what he identifies as, I think that's just the Deadpool character. So I don't think that they've retroactively fitted this character to fit this formula like some people
yeah,
think. Because, like I say, it's easy to go down these Hollywood conspiracy. If you go by the Mark Kermode rule of thumb, if
mm,
you laughed 6 times in a comedy, that's great. I think I
yeah,
laughed
exactly, yeah,
6 times within the first half an hour.
yeah,
So
exactly.
I just had a really good time and it was really funny. And that's what you want.
Mm,
Like I say, violent, that's what you want
mm.
in an R rated superhero film.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, again, like I thought it was on part funny, really funny and enjoyable. On part of the same Deadpool films, really. I think maybe.
Quotable. I think that's the sign of a good film. You're quoting
Oh
it
yeah,
since. Everyone's trying to do a Gambit impression.
yeah.
Um,
That
I'm
down.
going to Disneyland, fuck you. All this stuff. It's
Oh yeah.
great.
Oh yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Like again, like fuck you, Fox. I'm going Disneyland. Get fucked and stuff like that. And then you have like oh that down on that what's it down under cunt. The under cunt from down under cunt finally dies and he's standing right behind me, isn't he? They have other
Yeah.
jokes where he's like, "Oh yeah, welcome to the MCU. By the way, you're entering at kind of a low point." Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
I feel like again, like it took advantage of the situation, which I've always loved about the Deadpool films because they don't care. Like I think the character Deadpool is, you can just do almost anything with him because of his meta humor and the way he breaks the fourth wall a lot of the time. You can just let loose and just make fun of whatever the hell you want to make fun of, But but again, like as long as you have those emotional, dramatic moments sprinkled in there, like the first two films did. Like obviously the first film, Vanessa, he gets scarred and he has to get back to Vanessa. Um, yeah, he has to get back to her, but he's too scared to talk to her, And it was good to see with the emotional moments in this film, like when Logan's talking to X-23 about what he did when he walked off, got into a fight with the X-Men, walked off, and then they got killed, and everything like that. It was good seeing that because obviously a lot of MCU films recently they have relied a bit too much on the humor. They haven't really allowed the emotional moments to actually leave an impact on you like they used to, like
There
back.
doesn't feel like there's much stakes in some of
Exactly.
these
Yeah.
stories that they're going with.
Yeah. Exactly. And yeah, the humor worked for me. I think because obviously, the MCU films mostly the PG-13 ones they have a different kind of humor. They're like you said, they're more quippy. They're more more squeaky clean, and every 5 minutes there's a joke or something. But compared to Deadpool, which is obviously more R-rated, more like there's no restrictions on Deadpool. Just he can do and say whatever the fuck he wants. Um, so I think like with that humor kind of work. Now he's in the Marvel Cinematic Universe technically, despite the ending of this film. I think it did. I think it worked well. I think it had a nice new fresh perspective to the MCU again, and it was nice to have humor that you were laughing at. And again, like you said, you go to the cinema with your mates, you have a few beers, everything's all good. It was just yeah, it was worked in very well.
Yeah,
Uh,
again, as good as it needed to be right
yeah,
now to have some faith in. At least we can rely on this character to provide entertainment, even if the MCU is slowly declining.
mm. um, yeah. So, what's your thoughts on the cameos then? Let's talk about the cameos because we may as well.
I mean, in terms of there's a difference between cameos and guest appearances, right?
Yeah,
Or supporting roles, because I think most of them are supporting characters.
yeah,
I
they are
I
technically.
think
Yeah,
in terms of cameos, we just have Henry Cavill, right?
I mean, we have Happy Hogan at the start as well.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Yeah,
Yeah,
and that was a good joke with Robert Downey Jr. not wanting to do cameos anymore.
yeah,
Yeah, so right, yeah, you got John Favreau. That was great. I
mm,
think it was kind of not a lull, but because we had such a high with that opening with
yeah,
the NSYNC song,
yeah,
and that was just so perfectly choreographed. It then has to obviously establish its characters and reintroduce characters that we've had before.
mm,
Um, so it came as like a nice surprise that John Favreau was in it.
yeah,
But I think it was Henry Cavill that they expected a bigger reaction from for
mm,
people.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
that was it. Like, a good throwback to Mission Impossible Fallout, where he reloads his arms and gets in the fight. But in terms of the guest appearances, I really did like them all. I was upset that Thomas Jane wasn't in there because I know he came back for a fan film
Yeah.
maybe 14 years ago called
Mm.
Dirty Laundry. I really wanted to see him just because I'm a big fan of that film. Um, I kind of wanted Ben Affleck in there, but I
Yeah.
think I think perhaps they would, because I heard rumors that they were going to try and bring him in as maybe a variation of Batman or something. But that would be essentially redoing the joke of the Human Torch, where you have um, this actor coming back to play this role, but actually he's playing this role.
Yeah.
Um, I think it'd be a bit too sort of fan servicey, really.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, I mean, Blade was the big one for me.
Oh, yeah.
Big fan of the Blade films, and
Mm.
there seems to be a pattern with the old superhero films where first one good, second one better, third one terrible. So you could
Mm.
kind of apply that. Some apply that to Blade.
Yeah.
Some will apply that to the X-Men
Mm.
films,
Exactly,
both
yeah.
series, and also Spider-Man, the
Mm.
Sam Raimi ones. So
Mm.
Blade was the big one, knowing especially the supposed history between him and Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah, exactly.
Wesley Snipes was notoriously difficult to work with on Blade Trinity.
Mm.
But I think his career kind of went down after that with
Well,
some
he went
tax problems,
yeah,
perhaps.
I was about to
So
say he
I
went
think he
prison.
kind of felt like he needed this film. Um, yeah, I think he felt like he knew what he did wrong then, and he kind
Yeah.
of wanted to redeem himself and any form of bad will he had with Ryan Reynolds. And the fact that Ryan Reynolds was game to let him in, I think it shows a lot of his character.
Mm.
But
Well,
in
yeah.
terms of the cameos, there's, like I say, it was just so great to see them. This felt like the film we thought we were going to get with Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of
Mm.
Madness. This felt like, although it wasn't a multiverse film, it kind of felt as bizarre as we wanted that film to be.
Mm. No, I get what you mean. I mean, I liked Multiverse of Madness enough, mainly due to Sam Raimi, being his amazing, awesome self, and
Agreed.
I
I
didn't.
think, yeah, it's
Yeah.
one of those, the film might not work, but visually, you have to get this guy back with a better script,
Mm.
because all that camera work that he incorporates from Evil Dead and Spider Man, it really works with Doctor Strange.
Oh yeah, exactly. And if they do a third one, I remember because there were rumors ages ago they were going to do a third Doctor Strange. They were going to bring Scott Derrickson, who did the first one, back, or they were looking to bring him back. And I was like, nah, bring back Raimi. I want to see Raimi's Doctor Strange. I don't want Derrickson's Doctor Strange. I didn't hate Derrickson's Doctor Strange. I thought it was fine. I think Raimi's vision for that series is just way better, and it just suits it way more than than Derrickson's vision ever did. But for the cameos and stuff like that, again, like you said, I enjoyed all of them. Much like you, Darren, Wesley Snipes was the biggest fucking surprise, just because. Again, the history between him and Ryan, and when he came on screen, I had to do a double take because I thought it was another actor at first. Maybe I was like, "Is that another actor they got that looks like him?" Then he started talking, and I was like, "Oh no, that's actually is Wesley Snipes."
Retarded.
Um, I'm not trying to get cancelled again. Um, but yeah, no, but yeah, it was that was a really big shock to see. Elektra wasn't much of a shock because did get leaked by Maximum Effort Entertainment on Twitter.
I think she's in the trailer, isn't she? I think
Now I
you
think
can
that's
see a leg if you
X-23.
pause it. Oh, is
I
it?
think
Okay.
yeah, X-23 gets revealed in the last trailer for this one.
I
Which
mean,
why
I could give or take X-23, to be honest.
no,
I
that's fair enough.
just it's not. I think that her story was wrapped up like Logan's was in Logan.
Mm,
Although I was really happy that Hugh Jackman came back. But X-23, especially because they withheld that cameo for the last one,
mm,
it's like we know it's going to be her. It's like, why is
yeah,
this a big surprise?
yeah, I get that. Channing Tatum's Gambit. I mean, that was rumored, but but he showed up on screen, and I was like,
Well,
"Holy
I,
fuck!"
I remember talking about this film because they were trying to do a solo Gambit film when
Yeah,
we were at uni together.
yeah, exactly. I
And that
remember
was,
it
well,
well.
like you said, 10 years ago.
Fuck.
Um, so I'm very glad that he came back. He's just not Gambit.
Mm,
And that's the whole joke about it.
yeah.
The fact that he is terrible It's a very fun comedic performance, but this isn't the Gambit we want for
Yeah.
a spin-off solo film, unless it's an outright comedy and you go off and do Deadpool and
Mm.
Gambit.
Yeah.
I don't think this is the the MCU's casting of Remy LeBeau.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully when I'm just hoping when the MCU gets around to doing mutants and the X-Men, which should be soonish, I imagine. Hopefully they can recast everyone. That includes Wolverine as well.
I agree because I think the death of the MCU happened in that episode of WandaVision where
Oh, really?
Pietro Maximoff came in.
Well, the Ralph Boner one.
The Ralph Boner one, but not
Yeah, yeah,
necessarily the Ralph Boner joke. But as soon as
yeah.
she opens the door and they recast Pietro,
Mm,
I thought that was a very bad step because we kind of wanted a form of progression.
yeah.
And I really like fan castings for certain properties, especially the X Men,
Mm.
because I've been a fan of the X Men, the cartoons, the new X Men '97 cartoon, which if you haven't seen, I highly recommend on Disney
Oh,
Plus.
yeah. Such a good
Um,
show.
oh, we're eating well this year, man, aren't we? For
We are, yeah.
not for superhero properties, not with the boys, but certainly with X Men films,
Mm,
X Men properties. Um, but I just I thought there was no form of progression, and they were relying a lot on what happened in the past, where
yeah.
we liked what Hugh Jackman did, and certainly after this, I would love for him to be in Secret Wars. But
Oh,
I
yeah.
also like the fact that we can start from scratch and recast everyone.
Mm,
That
exactly.
includes Doctor Doom in Fantastic Four, but I'm not sure if that's happening.
We'll talk about that.
We'll
We'll talk
talk.
about him
There's a
towards
lot
the.
to talk about with that.
There's a lot to talk about that. But yeah, obviously, yeah, the cameos were good. Speaking on quickly on. Actually, no, we'll go to the next bullet point with that. But yeah, the cameos and stuff they were really good. Yeah, again, they're all. I think I can't trying to remember the rest of them now. Actually, so the Happy Hogan's one, I just thought was hilarious. At the start, I guess would you consider the other supporting actors, other supporting characters like Dupender and Megasonic and Colossus cameos in this because they're barely in this. They're in
That
like two
that's
scenes.
true. That's true. I think they're just kind of holdovers from the Deadpool films.
Yeah,
It's one of those where I would like to see them more
yeah,
because they've had such a bigger part in the previous Deadpool films.
mm.
But perhaps they were in there in an earlier cut because this film is quite short. It's only 2 hours.
Yeah. 2007.
How convoluted would it be, and how slow would the opening be if they kept all those characters in?
Mm.
I, like I say, I would like to see more of them. But for what we got with all the other characters, I'd rather sacrifice their screen time to have more of Wesley Snipes um, than wanting because. Did I miss something? But why was it off screen that they split up Vanessa and
Yeah,
Wade?
we'll talk about that more. Well, let's go to the next bullet point, which is the narrative of the film.
Okay,
Yeah, so with I do like this film. To get me wrong, but I feel like compared to the other ones, this is probably the worst one narratively speaking. The story is, I think, for these multiverse movies, I think we all kind of need to expect the story to be a bit messy, not make a lot of sense in a weird way. I mean, sometimes you can get a good one, like Everything Everywhere All at Once. That's a multiverse movie that made sense, from
Spider
start to
Verse,
finish. Spider Verse as well. That's another one. But I think
another two.
what
Another two,
another two, yeah.
Spider into the Spider Verse and beyond,
Oh yes, that's free.
across the
Across,
across the Spider
yeah,
Verse.
yeah,
Yeah,
across because Beyond's
the
supposed to be the
next
third
one.
one, which hasn't come out yet. It was supposed to come out this year, but
Don't remind me.
yeah, I'm pretty disappointed with that. But yeah, with these multiverse films, because you're dealing with time travel and stuff, you expect to be a little bit messy here and there. But I feel like again, the movie's humor and stuff like that does save it a lot. But yeah, but then like some things narratively speak like do get affected, like Wade and Vanessa's relationship, for example. They break up off screen. And I think you do get a flashback of it when Cassandra's entering Wade's mind with her fingers and all that stuff, and it just doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't like he wants to join the event straight after Deadpool 2. He wants to join the Avengers, and he's going through this midlife crisis, but it just doesn't line up with the second film. Because he goes through all that to save Vanessa from dying in the second film, and then he telling me like straight afterwards,
They
oh
split
god,
up.
yeah, exactly. He's like, oh god, the midlife crisis, just want to be with me, I want to matter, and then he doesn't make the cut of the Avengers, and then he breaks up with her, and it just doesn't hold any weight. It doesn't ring true, and it's getting a bit of annoying. Their relationship's starting to get a bit annoying now, to be honest, because like every film's there. It's like in the first film, he gets the surgery for his cancer. His face gets deformed. He's trying to fix it, and then she ends up loving him for who he is. Second film, she dies, and then he has to try and get over her, even though the whole point of that film at the end was that he undoes it, which was kind of the joke. But at the same time, like they don't do anything with her character that much, even in the first two. And it's one of the things because in the comic book she's copycat, isn't she? That's who she turns out to be. This, um,
I've read years ago. I remember reading
mm,
Deadpool comics, and I never really liked them. I remember one where he turned into Tom Cruise. I always thought that would be a fun little cameo in a film, but
yeah,
I never really enjoyed the Deadpool comic books.
yeah,
But saying that, I've really liked the films. I
mm,
find them really enjoyable. But with Vanessa,
yeah,
in terms of the story and why it's messy, I think it's a holdover from the Loki season one when they introduced the TVA.
mm,
And I think that the TVA was such a brilliant way of reinventing the MCU, where you could have other actors come in and take over the mantle of, say, Iron Man, without
yeah,
having to do any form of backstory in terms of an origin story, because we already know it. So
mm,
I thought it was a really good way of continuing on those characters in a way that was maybe more meta, as opposed to just like the route they did with Black Panther, where they'll just have someone else take over the mantle
yeah,
of that character. I really like that. The problem is they didn't do anything with that.
mm,
And thankfully, I think the TVA storyline has ended not with Loki season two, which it kind of did, although it was
mm,
quite forgettable. But I think it ended with this, where you have these superheroes coming together to save their timeline. I don't think you can really have the TVA involved in the MCU anymore, because I think they've concluded that story.
mm,
Thankfully, because I think it just opened up too many doors and possibilities where it kind of undid the goodwill of the Infinity Saga by having them as like a throwaway joke in that series.
mm,
But I think the story worked, and because it's a comedy and it's Deadpool, it can kind of make fun of the inconsistencies.
yeah,
But I do agree that it is all over the shop. Despite
yeah,
the fact that it is quite streamlined, because there's not many sets there, there's not many
mm,
locations. It's not like um, everything everywhere all at once, where there's so many different universes that they go in.
yeah,
It's just a really simple, streamlined narrative. It's kind of planes, trains, and automobiles just set in the last 25 years of Marvel pop culture.
yeah, exactly. I can see that, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, again, like it can be a little bit yeah, again, like I said, the idea of the narrative, it is a little bit messy, like, but as you say, even though it's supposed to be more streamlined than anything else. I think with everything ever all at once was that, because that was an original concept as well. You know, the Daniels were able to rework it and have it morph and develop it into something that made sense, and the themes and everything. But with this one, because obviously you're coming off, you know, an entire MCU like saga, so you have to carry over all that, and you have to carry over all the other Deadpool films. That also kind of does get in the way, and kind of uh, not weights it down, but kind of distracts. It can be a bit distracting at points. But again, like you said, the old characters like Vanessa and Blind Down Colossus, especially Colossus. Like, I miss him. Like, you know, he only got one line, I think, in this whole film, which sucks, because he was the best part of the first one of the best parts of the first two.
I think the bearded biker got more lines than Colossus in this one, and they made a joke about it not being a
Yeah,
a voiceover role or whatever.
yeah, yeah, exactly.
I think as
And
well because they did Colossus right, because he wasn't
yeah,
done right in the previous films,
oh
and
yeah,
when you see a faithful adaptation with the first Deadpool film, you go,
yeah,
yeah, that's how Colossus should be.
yeah, exactly. You know, he's big, he's buff, he's Russian. Like, that's literally how he's supposed to be.
Yes,
Compared to like the Brian Singer version, where he was kind of just slimmed down, and well, it wasn't like it was. He was still big and bulky, but he definitely wasn't a giant by any means necessary.
No, no, it was the way of doing it without fully CGI. Because
Mm,
we've not seen Colossus outside of being in that form, right? In the Deadpool
yeah.
films, he's always just been the transformed Colossus, and we've not seen the human version, which I
Mm.
think kind of works.
Yeah, exactly. Isn't he like permanently stuck in the with the metal, or is that just, or can he actually transform? Or
I think, I mean, in the Bryan Singer ones, he transforms. I remember
yeah,
him transforming in his introduction in the comics because I think it's like a runaway train, a runaway tractor or something, and he lives on a farm. And it's one of those typical superhero things where it runs into him, and like the Thing in the Fantastic Four, he'll stop it, or like Hellboy, when a car comes up to him, he'll punch it. He just kind of transforms into this stoic metal figure and stands there and letting this vehicle hit him, and it just kind of warps around him. And I think that's the introduction of him being able to transform from being human to this hulking metallic figure. So, from if I remember correctly, he can transform back and forth.
yeah, okay. No, that's cool. Again, like it's one of those things where, because obviously the X-Men films, they changed a lot of stuff, and it's like it's one of those things
Especially
where,
Deadpool.
yeah, especially Deadpool. But yeah, but even then, like even though the narrative's messy and stuff, there are some parts, scenes in there that I really did enjoy. Like, with Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, the fact that they finally did the things that the Fox films were too embarrassed to do, like give him the yellow and blue suit. This the first fight scene where he's actually walking on all fours like an animal. The things that the silly, goofy, comic booky things that Fox at the time were too scared to do, because Kevin Feige, who he runs Marvel, who's obviously the head of Marvel Studios, but he was a intern on the first couple of Deadpool films, and he admitted in an interview recently the reason why they went with black leather was because the Matrix had just come out, and they were like, "Oh, black leather is cool. Let's do that with this." Um,
Ah, okay.
so that's why they never got the proper comic book like looks. I watched C3 films, and he brought up a theory where maybe it was due to the fact that Fox didn't have the toy rights, so they were like, well, let's just put them in the most basic thing possible, which I can see the Fox doing at that time. To be
Yeah,
honest,
cutting
but
corners.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
The thing with speaking about the costume,
yeah.
I was very underwhelmed
Oh, really?
by the reintroduction of Hugh Jackman's Wolverine. I think
Oh,
because what we got first was the variants of him.
oh, yeah.
So the first Hugh Jackman we see in this, I think it's the 5'2" comic book
Mhm.
accurate one in the bar, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
So
Yeah.
by the time we get to the faithful comic book adaptation with the colors, we've kind of already had that in the
Mm.
last 5 minutes with all these other versions of the Age of Apocalypse,
Yeah,
one
yeah.
with like the glam rock hair
Mm.
and all these other ones. So I don't think it was the costume as much as the way in which they
You got revealed.
reintroduced Hugh
Yeah.
Jackman. I thought it was a bit underwhelming.
That's fair enough. I mean, I found that montage quite fun, to be honest, just going through all the
I
different.
loved it. It's just there
Yeah.
was I don't think it gave us chance as an audience member to enjoy his return.
Okay.
And it was kind of cut in with Henry Cavill in that role, which you don't know, is he going to take over that role in
Mhm. That's
in
true.
it in the
Yeah.
future? You have no idea.
Exactly. Yeah. We'll have to find out after Secret Wars comes out in 2027. I think that comes out. Um, but yeah, I loved all the. I loved all the Hugh Jackman variants. I think that first one kind of proves why a proper comic book accurate height Wolverine might not work completely in live action, because it did look a little silly, but that was the point. It was supposed to look silly. It was supposed to look goofy.
I mean, he
Uh,
was he was short, but he's not
yeah,
that short. I mean, that was kind of that CGI head replacement
yeah,
that they do in certain Marvel films. Where I mean, he
yeah.
is short, but I think he's 5'2", 5'3",
Hmm,
like a couple inches smaller than me.
yeah. What's funny is that Hugh Jackman admitted in an interview when they did the first X-Men film, they actually tried to make him look smaller than he actually was. So, like, in the first couple of days of filming, everyone was standing on boxes, everyone had to be tried looking taller than he was. But then after the first few days of filming, they just gave up on it because they're like, this is too much effort. We're just going to have to, the fans are just going to have to get used to being big
I
and
mean,
huge.
regardless of him, he is. It'll be hard for someone to replace him in that role, regardless
Mm,
of if he's authentic to the comic book roots. He became Wolverine even in the bad X-Men films, he is Wolverine.
Oh
X-Men
yeah.
Origins Wolverine, he's a great Wolverine in that.
Mm.
The film's terrible, but
Oh yeah. If you listen to my retrospective on the X-Men films, you know how I pretty much have a mental breakdown over how bad that film is. To be honest, just like same thing with Dark Phoenix too. Like just a massive, just yeah, like those.
I didn't think that one was. I forgot all about it until you
Oh,
just
wow.
mentioned it.
Mm.
But when I watched it, I didn't think it was as bad as Apocalypse.
Oh wow, really?
I think because they've already messed up the Phoenix saga before
So you're used
with
to it.
X Men 3, so it was just another one. Whereas
Yeah.
Apocalypse to me is one of the more interesting X Men villains, and to see him
Yeah.
done in this Power Rangers style.
Oh god.
I always look forward to like we were talking about casting for people. I always anticipate how they're going to look in costume. So
Mm.
when Christopher Nolan was doing Bane in The Dark Knight Rises, I was so excited to see the concept art, behind the scenes pictures, anything like
Yeah.
they're trying to do with the James Gunn DCU films now.
Mm.
Just anything that comes out, anything that leaks.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was the case with when we saw that first still of Apocalypse. I'm like, this cannot be Apocalypse. This is not
Yeah.
my Apocalypse.
This
Hashtag not my Apocalypse.
he just looked. I'm just gonna. I've said this before, but I think Apocalypse kind of had to be CGI. Like you cannot. He's one of those few characters I don't think you can do practically.
No,
It's like Thanos.
Thanos was brilliant. I
Mm.
look at even in a film that I don't think much of, but Prometheus,
Yeah.
the beginning of that film where you have this character sacrificing himself on the waterfall. It looks
Mm.
very good. I'm pretty sure it was 100% CGI. And
Mm.
he looked more convincing as Apocalypse than Oscar Isaac, with this kind of Ivan Ooze cosplay.
Yeah. Oh god, it was just that. It was just bad. I mean, don't get me
I've
wrong.
seen this film too many. I've seen it 3 times now. I
Yeah.
shouldn't have seen it once, and I don't know why I keep punishing myself going back to it, hoping that I'll see something in it. Because it came out the same year as Civil War, right?
It came out the same year as the first Deadpool and Civil War. Yeah,
As Civil
2016.
War, so it was this kind of thing where it was superheroes and Batman Superman. So
Oh
it was this year in which superheroes were fighting each other.
yeah,
So in X Men, you had these heroes fighting each other,
yeah,
um,
exactly.
and it was just the worst one.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair though, like Batman v Superman, I absolutely hated that film. To be honest, like I remember
I've
watching it.
grown to like it a little bit,
That's fair
but
enough.
I agree it's exhausting, and
It's
Zack Snyder just doesn't learn with anything.
mm,
When you watch the Rebel Moon films, they're
I
terrible. I've
mm,
wasted 4 hours of my life watching them. I'm not going to waste a further 6 hours watching the director's cuts just to see a bit more sci-fi tit and some tentacle porn.
yeah.
You know,
It- yeah, it's just one of those things where, yeah, like I haven't seen Rebel Moon, but because I mean, I don't hate Zack Snyder or anything. I liked Watchmen. I thought that was good. I liked Man of Steel. I haven't seen that in ages
you
though. I need
loved
to
Man
watch
of
that.
Steel, I remember.
Yeah, I loved Man of Steel back in the day.
Uh huh.
But I've not watched it in years. I need to get on that and actually see. I think that might be another Thor or Amazing Spider-Man 2 where I watch it and I love it at the first time. I'm a dumbass 18-year-old, and then and then 29-year-old me is like, oh, what happened here?
I remember doing that with a friend. Where, speaking of Hugh Jackman, for years I always rated Van Helsing. I really love that film.
Oh wow,
And I'd defend it without having seen it for
mm,
maybe 10 years. And I
yeah,
went back and watched it and went, this is really good, really fucking good.
mm,
And then halfway through pausing it and then thinking, hang on, we're halfway through the film. Everything that I remember happened already. What's going to happen in the last hour? And then
yeah.
it just quickly declines.
Oh dear,
So there's always those films which you go
yeah,
back and
yeah,
reconsider.
yeah,
But most
exactly,
of the X-Men films aren't that, where
yeah.
Uh, the first time I see them, I know if I'm going to like them forever or not.
Mm. Well, I think yeah, it's always fascinating, especially when you go back and watch the first X-Men film and seeing where it all began. But yeah, like again, but yeah, again, like Last Dance horrible, Orange is terrible. Apocalypse, Dark Phoenix are terrible. And did you ever watch New Mutants when that came out, or have you not bothered?
When it eventually came out.
Yeah, when it eventually did. It was supposed to come out in what, 2016, I think.
I think so. And then
Yeah,
it was one of those that just kept getting pushed back. But
I think.
that pales in comparison to what's happening with Blade.
Oh, at least New Mutants actually came out. Blade just at least New Mutants was actually filmed. Blades haven't even been filmed yet.
That's
Oh,
true.
we'll save that at the end though. We'll save that at the end. We'll save it at the end. Um,
You keep teasing him.
yeah. But yeah. So getting back to the narrative and stuff. What do you think of anchor beings as a concept?
I think. I mean, the central conceit is a being dies, and then that universe just dies as well, right? That's
Yeah,
the thing.
slowly decays.
Yeah, but due to the sacrifice of Logan, it's clearly an analogy of the Fox universe dying after Logan. Even though we had the
Mm.
Deadpool films, but that era of superhero films is over. It's not
Yeah.
going to continue.
Mm.
The problem is with anchor beings. I understand it as a narrative choice, but in the sacred timeline of the MCU, it's the same storyline as Iron Man, where
Yeah.
it's this ultimate sacrifice. So I think it would be the writers admitting that the MCU ain't shit without Iron Man in it.
Mm.
Because Endgame felt like the end of something.
Yeah,
And
it did. Yeah.
although there's certain films after that, it doesn't feel like they're really focusing on anything.
Mm.
So I think, like with the TVA being
Yeah.
reintroduced in this film, I think it's there solely for the purpose as an analogy for the premise that goes on in Deadpool and Wolverine. I don't think it will be something that continues in other timelines, because then it makes all other superhero film or all other superheroes in that universe kind of pointless, really. Whereas if Iron Man is the be all end all of superheroes, why would we then want to follow Thor in Thor 4 and Thor 5 when he was the anchor being for that? I, I I like it for what it is in this film, but not
Mm.
going forward in the future of the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah, I mean, I really like the concept. The name sounds a bit stupid. Anchor beings, just call them anchors. Like, take the being away. It just like I don't like the name. But I hear what you're saying. Like, in concept, yeah, I like it, and it'll be interesting to see if I think they will probably take it forward with future films, particularly in Secret Wars and Doomsday. Like the two Avengers films they announced recently. Um but we'll have to. It's one of those things where you just have to see. I like it as a concept, and I like how that was used to bring Wolverine back, or at least explain why Wade had to find a Wolverine to like save his world, save his universe, which was interesting.
Yeah, so
Uh,
it works for the purpose of progressing the narrative for this film,
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
but
yeah.
not, I don't think, any more than that.
We'll have to see when the next two Avengers films come out.
I,
Uh,
I, I think the purpose of anchor beings is for the TVA to reference them. And
mm,
I can't imagine them playing a role in the next couple of Avengers films.
mm,
I think that Doctor Doom will be kind of the overseer, because they're going with. I mean, you might want to talk about it later, but
yeah,
the storyline of Secret Wars, which I'm assuming will be introduced in Doomsday.
yeah, probably. Yeah.
Um, I think he will be that version of the TVA where he is the overseer of this,
Mm,
and that there's no need for the TVA to be in it at all from now on.
yeah. No,
So the fact that these anchor beings, I can't imagine them. I mean, it'd be good to go back to this podcast when everyone's an anchor being, and
mm.
that the Fantastic Four film is set in a different universe where they're the anchor beings. I have no idea.
It will be, yeah, it'll be interesting. It's just one of those things we'll have to see. I think again it does work for this film. I'm interested to see if they take it forward. I think originally for Kang Dynasty, back when Avengers 5 was supposed to be called that, and Kang was supposed to be the big bad guy, which didn't work because Kang kind of sucked as a villain, to be honest, because he got beaten by ants. Uh,
Yeah, he's meant to be introduced as this big bad, the next
yeah,
Thanos, and he gets beaten by Ant Man. in his first screen outing.
Yeah, it gets beat by fucking Ant-Man. Jesus. That's the worst MCU film I've ever seen, by the way. Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. It's hands down the worst one for me. Um,
It's not good.
yeah,
It's
but I
not
think
good.
I think originally what they were gonna do though was they were gonna TVA was gonna find out that Kang was up to something, and then they were gonna get all the anchor beings, all different universes. So Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, all three Spider-Men, a couple of other anchor beings, so like all the old actors, and then they were gonna form a multiverse Avengers. And then they were gonna fight off Kang. They were gonna be close to losing. They got some more characters in to help him, but it'll be too late, and then that would lead into Avengers: Secret Wars. So if those leaks are true, they clearly had ideas and plans for that concept. But we'll see how they play it out with Doomsday.
They could have done something so great with Kang because
Mm,
for what they were introducing and what they were going with, I thought they were going to have Jonathan Majors play a variation of Kang in the
mm,
next couple of films. So I thought that in X Men, for instance, Jonathan Majors would play a version of Kang which is closer to Apocalypse. Because
mm.
in the comic books, I think it's a character called Ramatut, which is a variant of Kang, who's actually in the end credits of Quantumania.
Oh wow,
And I'm kind of glad they didn't go with that after seeing how he played the other variants
yeah,
of Kang. But I thought they were going to do that where they were going to have Ant-Man face off against sort of the OG Kang, and then have maybe the Fantastic Four face a version of Kang who became closer to Doctor Doom, and then
mm,
have them all come together where they've all individually fought a version of this character, but not when this character reforms to make essentially an army of Kangs.
mm.
But they've kind of scrapped that whole thing with the whole um, allegations. John, I think it's a. I think the direction they were going in with Kang, the best thing was to scrap it. I
Yeah,
think they
exactly.
kind of used him as a scapegoat to just throw the baby out with the bathwater and get rid of the next couple of scripts in the MCU and kind of start from scratch with smaller
Mm.
films like Thunderbolts or the new
Yeah,
Captain America.
exactly. Yeah, and yeah, but again, anchor beings. We'll see what they're like in the future. Speaking about, what did you think of Wayne and Vanessa's relationship? Because I was ranting about that earlier. I just wanted to see what your opinion on it was.
Like I say, I watched the Deadpool films recently, the first and second one, leading up to this, and I just completely forgot. Well, it happened off screen. The fact that they split up.
Mm.
So I think either get together or just I can't imagine her being in the next one, to be honest,
It's just one
because
of
she
those
was
things.
barely in this, and it's kind
Mm,
of becoming like Kirsten Dunst and Tobey Maguire, where
yeah,
it feels like the scenes together are the same conversations.
yeah. It's one of those things where, like I was saying before, it's either have her be copycat already or just kill her off completely because they just don't use her. Like literally in the second film, she gets fridged. I don't know if you've heard about it. Do you know what fridged is or?
No,
So Fridge, so in a Green Lantern, it was a Green Lantern comic book. I can't remember which one it was. One of the Green Lanterns, I think it might have been Hal Jordan, comes home and he finds his girlfriend dead and kind of, and her body's been shoved in the fridge, and that's his motivation for getting revenge on the bad guys in that comic book. And that's kind of what fridging, kind of what fridging is referred to as, where the main character's love interest is used as his motivation to throughout the whole film, which isn't like I wouldn't say it's like a massively bad thing. But again, like in the second film, she's barely in it. She's like literally barely in the second film, and again, she's barely in this film as well. And it's just one of those things where just either develop their relationship, have them be a good couple. Maybe have it be her mutants counterpart, which is Copycat, which is I think is a Mystique kind of as character. It could be an interesting way for them to team up and have be kind of this, I don't know, girlfriend, boyfriend, husband, wife team up superhero thing, which could be funny, I guess. Or just break it.
recast her and bring Blake Lively in.
Yeah, exactly. Or just wire out completely. Because again, like I said, it's getting annoying now. How this every single film it's focused on their relationship, and I get it, like they love each other and stuff, but it's just you can only go back and forth on it so much to the point where it's like it's just getting irritating. Like you said, it's like Tom Maguire and Kirsten Dunst in the Spider-Man films. They went back and forth so much, and the whole "will they won't they" thing was just annoying. One of the things I hated about Amazing Spider-Man 2 was the fact that Andrew and Emma who had this great chemistry with each other. They were in the first film, and then they just kept doing the whole will they won't they thing throughout the second one. And it was like, Jesus Christ, can we just let these characters be with each other and breathe? And
And the fact that they were dating at the time kind of added
yeah,
that chemistry. It's the
mm,
redeeming thing about Amazing Spider-Man 2.
yeah. Let's talk about the Deadpool variants.
Okay.
How'd you feel about most of them?
Um, the right. I'm a big fan of Rick and Morty.
Yeah,
So to me, having all these Deadpool variants just kind of felt like the Council of Rick. So it's a way in which they can have, like I say, variants of this
yeah,
character, but it's the OG one that we like. I
mm,
think although it was fun to have Matthew McConaughey voice one of the roles and have Blake Lively voice one of the roles and have the Wrexham kit featured
yeah,
in the film. And it was good. It was nice little Easter eggs. But I think the purpose there was purely to have Deadpool and Wolverine face off with a faceless army.
mm,
So, like the Star Wars prequels, you had the droids. Age of Ultron, you had an army of sort of same looking robots. I think that's the reason why they introduced all these characters, knowing that they're just going to have this epic old boy style
mm,
fight sequence, this one take thing.
yeah,
So in terms of them, I liked it, but it reminded me too much of Rick and Morty, which I also like.
mm.
And I was also surprised that we didn't actually establish that it was definitely Blake Lively as Lady Deadpool. It was just in the end credits where you go, "Oh, it was her." But there was a
Yeah,
lot of there's a lot of speculation whether it was her, whether it was Taylor Swift,
mm.
and we didn't really get that answered.
No, really,
But I like the designs. It was faithful to the comic books.
yeah,
Like I said, I've not read these particular ones, but I've seen the pirate head with the
yeah,
propeller helmet thing.
yeah,
I've seen these versions in the comic book, so I'm assuming it was good to be able to pause it and look.
yeah.
But it also just kind of reminded me of Comic Con.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from with that. To be honest, I did like all. I liked. There's one variant I didn't like, which I'll get onto in a second. But most of them I did. I liked Kid Pool. The fact that I was Ryan Reynolds' actual daughter as well, and she was just like, "That's fucking Peter," and I was just like,
It's like an Adam Sandler
"Yeah,
film, isn't it? All of his
yeah,
family,
yeah, yeah." Yeah, it is a bit like an Adam Sandler film, isn't it?
yeah, his
Yeah, I
wife's
like.
in it, his daughters are in it.
Yeah, Lady
Nepotism,
Deadpool.
but I suppose that's what you have to do, isn't it?
Yeah, Lady Deadpool I thought was a good inclusion. The Deadpool head I thought was really good. Dogpool, I love Dogpool. She stole the whole show. Dogpool was just incredible. Who else? I was surprised that Barack Pool from the one from X Men Origins Wolverine. I was surprised he wasn't part of the Deadpool corps. To be honest, I generally
Ah,
thought
that's
that
true.
yeah, because like I don't the reason why they call him Barack Pool is because he looks like a character from Mortal Kombat. But
Oh yeah, the one with the because he has like the blade
yeah,
arms.
yeah, exactly. And I think because because the facial expressions in the mouth sewn shut, like that's I think that's why they call him Barakapul. But yeah, with like I thought he was going to be part of the Deadpool core, and he just wasn't. I just thought that would be such a good cameo. But I guess because he did kill him in Deadpool 2,
They've
then
already kind of made a joke about that, haven't they?
yeah,
And
they
I
did that
think
in the
that when in the first Deadpool where he had the little
toy.
action
Yeah,
figure, yeah, yeah. So I
mm,
think they've kind of done that to
yeah.
death, really.
Yeah. One Deadpool variant though I did not like was Nice Pool, and that was because I'll be honest with you, I thought it was really annoying and just not funny.
But
And
that's is that not the point?
I don't know. I
I
mean,
mean,
they could,
OG Deadpool gets annoyed with him. That's the whole kind of purpose of that.
yeah. I
And
mean,
the
I guess,
fact that he's meant to be so nice that when he dies in such a horrific way.
yeah.
But no, right, okay, yeah. Why did he annoy you?
I just didn't find the interactions between him and a real Deadpool funny, to be honest. And they kind of felt a bit dragged out as well. I was kind of like, can we get on with this, please? Like, I don't know. I just didn't find him funny. And when he died, I was a bit like, thank fuck for that. I don't know. Maybe that was kind of the point they were going for, but I don't know. I feel like during his scenes, I was just there like, I should be laughing at this dialogue, this exchange, particularly the part where he goes, "I can break the fourth wall as well." Proposal. I was just like, I should be laughing at this, but there was something about it where I was like, I don't know. I just didn't think it was. I just
I
didn't find it funny.
I
That was
think it
basically
was Ryan Reynolds poking fun at himself. with that
Mm.
role. That he
Yeah.
is, this gorgeous looking human
Yeah.
who is just very shallow, perhaps,
Yeah.
and that there's not much else to him.
Mm.
Um,
Okay.
what was it, the first interaction where Dogpool's there?
Yeah, I think all of that. Yeah, the first one, the field and stuff.
He's
I don't
like,
know.
why have you not got a mask on? He's like, come on, guys. I thought that was great. I really liked
Mm.
him.
Yeah,
And
I
thankfully
like
for
that little
you,
joke.
he was killed off, so you
Mm.
won't get to see him in
Yeah,
anything
thank
else.
God. Yeah, I like that little joke where he's like, "Come on, guys, look at me." I like that. I like that joke. I'll admit that. But everything else, I think it was the exchange between the two of them. It was, I think, because obviously there's two Ryan Reynolds there. It was just a bit like, this is just. It just got a bit drag. I think it was maybe it was a bit drag. It was dragged out maybe a little too much for me, and I was just a bit like, I just want to go on with the plot and the story, and let's get to the car fight with Wolverine and Deadpool because that's a good fight scene.
Yes, that's when it ramped up a bit in terms of
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
enjoyment because it was a bit of a lull. You didn't really know where the film was going.
Mm. What do you think of
Uh,
the action sequences, by the way? I thought they were very well handled, to be honest.
Very good. I like the fact that, like I say, with Blade, we're seeing Wesley Snipes do his thing. Some nice
Mm.
callbacks to some of the dialogue from his films.
Yeah.
Gambit was cool.
Mm.
The fight sequences were good, but I think, and it's one of the redeeming factors of Deadpool 2, the fact that you get David Leitch, who is the stunt guy from back in the Matrix, right? And he did
Yeah, I think
the
so, yeah.
first John Wick film, and he did,
Yeah.
Hobbs and Shaw and Bullet Train
Mm.
and not Nice
Yeah.
Guy, The Fall
Uh,
Guy, which weren't, they were not very good films, but the action sequences are good.
mm.
So I think when you have the high of some of the fight sequences from Deadpool 2, some
Yeah.
of this just seems a bit like, I suppose, like, I wouldn't say Infinity War, but a friend of mine doesn't like Infinity War because he thinks that it's just people fighting in a field.
Wow.
Which I kind of get it, but all of them have their moments to shine.
Yeah.
And that was the case with the ending of this film. But in terms of uh, the fight sequence, what am I talking about? Actually, the first fight sequence in this was incredible. It was
Mm.
it was creative. The song has been stuck in my head for
Oh, yeah, the
about
bye,
two,
bye,
three
bye.
weeks now. Every
It's such a
time
good song.
it was just. And
Yeah.
have you seen the previs shoot for that sequence where they had all the stunt guys in and they had
Uh,
this kind of Microsoft Paint text on the screen. It was very primitive, but they have, this kind of handheld GoPro wide angle lens footage,
mm.
and it was brilliant. The fight sequence in the car was, I think, the highlight for me.
Oh, yeah, I love that fight sequence.
It was fun. The fact that uh, it's a simple thing, but they didn't cut away when he goes. He says all this about Vanessa, and then there's
Mm.
just a pause, and Deadpool goes, "I'm going to fight you now."
Oh, yeah.
And he goes, "Are you?" And then he punches him, and
Yeah.
you just get that reaction of Hugh Jackman. It
Yeah.
doesn't cut away; it just stays on that, and he's like, "Motherfucker!" And then they're off.
Yeah.
Also, a great way to partially introduce the Greatest Showman onto the
Mm.
soundtrack.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, because I remember I actually missed that cameo when I watched it the first time round. Because I remember I saw it on the soundtrack list, and I was like, "Oh, is there going to be? I want which part of the film is going to be in." And I watched it, and I was just like, "Where is it?" I completely missed it in the when I caught it the second time round, but I missed it the first time round,
it's
and I was
it's
just like, "Oh,
very quick, isn't it? It's when
it is
he
very
he
quick."
hits
Yeah,
his head on the radio.
yeah,
But yeah, the fight sequences I do think were great when they were
mm,
at their best, being creative, fighting in confined spaces. The final fight, oh, there's two final fights, isn't there? The one with all the cameos,
yeah,
it was fine. They all had the moments, but um, there wasn't anything that necessarily stood out
yeah.
for me with that. And
Mm,
the with the last sequence, the old boy shot,
mm,
the reason why old boy works is because there's a sense of practicality to it.
yeah,
Whereas with this, it just all appears to have been generated in a computer,
mm.
which I did like. But I think when you're seeing Hugh Jackman finally get the cowl to
Oh
then
yeah.
cut to a CGI version of him, I think kind of takes away from the excitement you meant to have.
I mean, I can see what you mean. I don't think it took away the excitement for me. I think it's just the fact that finally seeing him wear the actual mask and just showing like how much more better he actually looks with the mask on, to be honest, and how and it actually kind of helped his performance. He was more. I think like this moment he put it on, he got way more gruff and way more
I
serious, and
think the,
just
the the white eyes help as well, don't they?
oh yeah. Well, I mean, that's how he could be more expressive in the mask as well. That's because Deadpool started off, with his film, The White Eyes, and then they did that with Tom Holland's Spider Man to make him more expressive. It's just to help him be more expressive, so they don't have to always with the old like Spider Man films where they're constantly taking the masks off to like show their expressions. Compared to compared to now where they can have eyes that can move and everything, which is cool to see. But yeah, the white eyes and stuff on the Wolverine mask were great, and just seeing that fight scene, the pose they pull at the end, like jump out of the bus, I really liked that pose. I just saw again, it was just good seeing him do the things and the poses and the looks that the Fox were too scared to like have him do, because they weren't that interested in being accurate to Wolverine the comic books, but. No, yeah, the fight scenes were all good. I loved the opening one with the bye bye bye, which that's actually a small little reference to both X-Men 2 and Deadpool 2, because in X-Men 2, when he's changing the songs on the radio, their Instinct's Bye 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 does play, and he goes, and Wolverine's just like, oh, no, no, and turns
A
it
song
off.
that he hates. So
Yeah,
then when you have him in this film, you just have him desecrate his grave
yeah,
to a song that he doesn't like.
yeah. And in Deadpool 2, when they did the music video for the song Celine Dion did for Deadpool 2, I think it was like Out of Ashes or something like that. At the end of the music video, Deadpool's like clapping. He's like, "Oh, well done, Celine. That was great. We do it again. Yeah, you're trying way too hard. You're at an 8. We need to get down to a 6. This is Deadpool 2, not Titanic." And then she calls him Spider Man like as an insult, and he's like, "Oh, I should have just gone in sync," and he did.
And he did, yeah.
He did. But yeah, that action was just so good as well. Just seeing him just beat up all the TVA agents. One thing I kind of did miss was how in the first two films, in the opening credit sequences, when they say, Fox presents, and then halfway through it, the credits change to where it's like if Deadpool got into the editing room and just changed all the names. So like, a hero, a teenage girl, written by the real villains of the film.
The man who
I
killed half of the people who killed John Wick's dog in
Yeah,
the second
exactly.
one.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, exactly. I kind of did miss that a little bit. From I really thought that they were going to do that for the opening credits. Same thing with the Marvel Studios logo. I generally thought that they were going to have it where he's because obviously he does sing it at the end. But I thought they were going to do it where he sings that the opening ident song for Marvel Studios from the very start,
I
and
thought they were
then
going to just replace all the superheroes in
yeah,
that
I
logo
thought
with
that
him.
too. Yeah, like all like scenes from like Avengers and stuff, but it's his head CGI'd onto him or something like that.
I think with your problem with having that opening credit sequence where it actually shows the credits,
Hmm.
I didn't mind as much because I think there's so many creative visual gags in that
Yeah,
where you have Hugh Jackman, his logo being, or his title sequence being on his metallic forehead when it's
true. Yeah,
like the skin's ripped off it. And the fact that you have Morena Baccarin, I think that's how you pronounce it, where
yeah,
he'll kind of breathe on the screen and give a love heart. There's
yeah,
so
yeah.
many
That was
creative visual gags like that, which
hmm,
I don't think they would have worked if it just replaced it with, like you said in the first film,
hmm,
some throwaway gags to the real creatives, like as the writers were credited.
yeah. I get that. Yeah, no, I understand that. I just kind of it was just one of those little things I missed from the first two, but
It's a
again,
recurring
like
gag that wasn't like the NSYNC. That's a recurring gag. So I'm curious
yeah,
if why is Thor crying? If that will be in there in future
hmm,
films.
maybe yeah. Um, Yeah, maybe, yeah. I think were we going to talk about why is Thor crying? Yeah, I actually wrote it down here. Why was Thor crying? Is that something for sequels, or do you think it's just a running joke?
I think it's a running joke that
Hmm.
like NSYNC could be in the next one.
Yeah,
It could be where if they ever meet in a film, uh, Deadpool will just kind of fangirl all over him.
yeah,
Perhaps the same way that the girl did on the train in Thor: The Dark World, where she'll
yeah.
kind of accidentally brush into him. Perhaps they'll do something like that. Perhaps it is just a throwaway gag for this because they could get um, one of the OG Avengers to be in it.
Mm,
It wouldn't make sense if it was Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans, who is. known for comedies like Chris Hemsworth is.
Yeah.
He's already in this film as the Human Torch.
Oh
So I
yeah.
think it was just the next logical one
Mm.
for someone who hasn't been replaced like Edward Norton did with Mark Ruffalo.
Oh yeah.
I think it just kind of made sense for this film as just a very quick
Yeah.
passing joke. And the fact that it is Thor and that he is this godlike being is funnier.
Oh yeah.
And it's
Uh,
funnier than if it was, Black Widow or something.
yeah. Exactly. Yeah. But yeah, no, I thought it was funny. I was just like, because he repeats it so much, and I think, like when he's knocked out or something like that, and twice in the film, and he wakes up and he's like, "Why was Paul crying?" And it's just like, I don't know.
God of Thunder.
God of Thunder. But yeah, we'll see what happens with that one. But going back to the action scenes just quickly, yeah, they're all good. They're all great. To me, the car one's my favorite. I liked how it's slightly staged as if they're like fucking in the car, something like that, but they're actually fighting. Like when like at the final shot, like when Wolverine like stabs him in the stomach and he goes, "Oh, you dirty bitch," something like that. And then
Yeah,
when the car
I
got
think
like,
that got the biggest
yeah,
laugh in the cinema when it cuts back from that fight scene to uh, Deadpool just wrapped up in the seatbelts.
yeah,
That got
exactly.
the biggest laugh.
Yeah. Or when he goes, "Oh, we're just getting started, bub," and it like goes down to like the license plate of the car, and it's just you just see it rocking back and forth, and just goes into the night. So just they're still fighting
And what
because
does
like
it
they
say?
can't die.
Coexist on the little sticker.
Yeah,
That
I mean
was
they
nice.
can't. Yeah, and they can't die either. So like they might just still fight. You know what I mean? Just have a massive fucking fight. Um,
It's
yeah,
one of
no,
those things where because they can't die, there's no stakes in it anyway.
yeah,
The fact that
exactly.
they can just have fun with it is kind of
Yeah,
the whole
exactly.
purpose of Deadpool. It's like, why not?
Mm. Yeah, exactly. That's why I was going back to earlier when we talk about the comedy and stuff. With Deadpool, it's just you can do anything with Deadpool. Like it's one of those things as well. Like I don't think you even had to like have him explanation as to why he comes to the MCU. I think you could have easily have just had him be in it, and he just makes a quick joke, being like, "Yeah, I'm at Disney now, so I'm in here now." So yeah. So let's talk about the villains of the film. I felt that they were. The problem, the thing with the MCU is that, and this has been a problem for years, is that they've always had a villain issue. Sometimes you get a good one. You get Loki or Thanos, or that's it. No, I'm sure there's a few more out there. Um,
Killmonger was okay.
yeah, Killmonger was fine. Taskmaster from Black Widow. I'm joking, by the way. That was a terrible villain.
I was going to say you're
Uh,
not too far from Manchester. I'll find you for for
no, I'm
praising
joking.
that film.
Yeah, I didn't. Well, I didn't mind it. I thought it was okay. That was just it. Like it wasn't spectacular. It was just fine. But yeah, the
But
MCU's
yes,
always
villain problems. Thor: The Dark World.
yeah, like poor Chris.
Kang.
Yep, Kang. Like the MCU has had a villain problem, and the other two Deadpool films, they're pretty good villains. Francis from the first one, I thought he was really good, really funny, but also intimidating at the same time. I thought Cable was great. Josh Brolin did a really good job with him, and Fire Fist was also he was again funny, but also quite serious at the same time. They blended those two. Ways together. So when I heard that the guy from Succession and Ripper Street, I can't remember his name, Matt
Matthew McFadden.
Matthew McFadden, yeah, when he was in it, and the woman who plays Cassandra was Emma Corden. Is it played Cassandra
Corin.
Nova?
Emma
Corin,
Corrin.
Corin, yeah. When I heard they were in it, I was like, and Cassandra, doing Cassandra Nova, which is Charles Xavier's really twisted sister. I was like, yes, that's going to be such good. They're going to really go out hard with it. And honestly, I just thought I thought they were kind of weak. To be honest, I
They
thought,
were secondary to, I think, the supporting characters, the heroes. I
yeah,
think they were just
exactly,
kind of incidental to it, where you need the antagonist for the TVA, but also one in the void. Is that what they call
yeah,
it?
the
Yeah.
void, yeah. Um, I feel like Cassandra was a little bit better. She was more badass with her powers and all that stuff. But even then, like there was just something missing from her character that I thought this could make her so much more. And I don't know, maybe they could have leaned in more to what Charles did to her, because with the way her story goes is that they were both in the room and they were both fighting over who gets to live in the room, and then Charles kills her, and then she grows up in the sewers or something like that, and they could have played along like
Oh, with like the Morlocks or something.
yeah, I think so. Yeah, he could have played along with that a lot more better, but they just didn't. There was something missing from her that I feel like they could have needed a bit more from to add to her character.
I,
Paradox was
I
just
yeah, sorry. Just in terms of her, I think she did a really good job. but
Mm.
I do agree that the character was
Oh yeah.
somewhat underwritten.
Oh yeah, Emma Corrin was so good as a character. She played it really well, and I'm not looking at actress. It was more just how, like, again, like you said, the character being underwritten and missing that kind of spark to make her a good imitating villain. Paradox, on the other hand, was just way too over the top, to be honest, and it was just one of those things where I was just like, I feel like you could have just played it a bit more straight, if anything, like a bit more serious, because that's what I thought he was going to be like when I saw him in the trailers. I thought it was like, oh, he's going to be this more serious, straightforward villain. He's going, and which would be a good contrast to Deadpool's more quippy comedic nature. Has how it's been, that's how it's been with villains in the previous Deadpool films. But this one, yeah, he was just a bit too goofy, a bit too silly, a bit too over the top. And there's just moments where I'm just like, you're supposed to be the bad guy, but I just don't feel it. I just feel like you're coming off like a bit of a fool. Like the scene where for when they bring him the sandwich and he's explaining to Deadpool, your world's gonna die after Deadpool's broken his nose and stuff, and he's got a sandwich, and Deadpool's like, "Is the destruction of my world making you peckish?" And he's like, "I'm eating my feelings," and I was just like, it was funny. Don't get me wrong, that was a really funny scene, but it's like, again, it was one of those things, right? He's supposed to be one of the villains in the film, and I don't know. Again, I just thought it was maybe a bit too over the top for me. I don't know. What about you? How do you feel about Paradox?
I think, especially following on from Succession, it's
Mm,
interesting to see a career move like this. I mean,
mm,
why wouldn't he take it on? I think it was just the actor having fun.
yeah,
Um, it's kind of that small man syndrome, isn't it, where you give someone too much power.
mm,
And yeah, he is powerful, but there's also people higher up in the hierarchy of the TVA, which
oh
he
yeah,
has to answer to.
mm,
Um, the problem I had with him, I enjoyed him in this film. The
mm,
problem I had was that he was clearly doing a Richard E. Grant impression, and it was such
mm.
a shame that they'd already cast him as a
Yeah,
version of Loki,
Loki, yeah,
because I'm watching it going, well, this is clearly the same way that Josh Brolin was reading the script for Deadpool 2 going, hang on, this is meant to be for Ron Perlman. Why give it to me when Ron Perlman would do this role?
mm,
That kind of felt what Paradox was
yeah,
to this film, where it just felt like an impression of Richard E. Grant, which would work because we've seen him play similar roles, whereas I
mm,
don't think we have with Matthew McFadden. So I think it felt somewhat jarring with
yeah.
the character that he was playing.
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from that. I guess, yeah. I mean, I think, again, for me, it was just a little bit too over the top. I mean, it was good seeing him having fun, though. I can't lie. It was good seeing him having fun, and when he got his ending in the film where the TVA took him away and everything. But again, it was one of those things where I don't know. I didn't hate him or anything, or like I think, which I think he was supposed to, because he's supposed to be, he's killing Deadpool's world and he wants to take over the TVA. I
I
like
think
the
that
idea.
he's so kind of passive with it that he's done this
Yeah.
before, that he's just so easy to do it, that
Mm,
it's very much in passing that, oh yeah, your world's dying. And I
yeah.
think the fact that he does kind of blow him off like that is
Mm,
the whole point of that role, that character.
yeah. No, I get what you mean. Yeah, and yeah, again, the villains, they weren't great, which sucks, but that's just typical MCU too
Was it
for you.
in terms of the other cameos that are here?
Yeah.
I think it was very strange that they didn't get Vinnie Jones as Juggernaut. They didn't get
Mm,
Jason Fleming as Azazel. They didn't
yeah.
get the actress who played Kelly who, I'm not sure, who played Deathstrike in X-Men 2.
I
I found
think
it very strange to reintroduce these characters and not have them played by the original actors when some of them are. Tyler Main comes back as
yeah.
Sabretooth. I
Mm.
believe Ray Park was Toad, although you wouldn't really have
Uh,
known.
I'm not too sure about that. I know that it's the same actor who played Pyro came back for this film as well. With Vinnie Jones, though, he actually was asked to come back, but he declined it because he claimed that getting into that Juggernaut suit was mentally draining, and he didn't want to do it. So it could be one of those things where the other villains you've mentioned, maybe they just didn't want to do it. Maybe his Hazel just didn't want to deal with the red makeup and everything like that, or Lady Deathstrike was just like, I don't want to do this. This just it could be one of those things where they were asked, but they just didn't want to do it. They weren't interested.
Possibly because
Um,
they had no dialogue in it, so I think
exactly, yeah,
perhaps they were finding it just a bit degrading to come back.
yeah. It's like I'm just a cameo in like a background extra in this film. The Russian as well, from Punisher.
That's
That was
right. It
yeah,
wasn't Kevin Nash, but
no. But I think
Yeah,
he would have done it. I don't think they asked him. I think if they asked him, he would have done it. To be honest.
I'd have lost my shit if that was Kevin Nash. That Shredder!
Yeah.
Or Super
Uh,
Shredder, sorry, that's who we played.
mm, yeah. Do you think? Are you looking forward to Punisher coming back in Daredevil Born Again? Or
Um, I don't like John Bernthal as Frank Castle.
oh, that's fair enough.
I think he plays a good vigilante. I've said this
Mm,
so many times with friends and stuff, but I think he
yeah.
plays a good antagonistic Punisher, like he did in season 2 of Daredevil. But I don't see John Bernthal as the family man, which is the whole purpose of what Frank Castle as a character is.
Mm,
I think they did better things with John Bernthal. Like, don't get me wrong, Thomas Jane only did uh, one feature film and then a short fan film.
mm,
Um, I, I'm looking forward to it, but I'm also I don't think I don't know if we needed um, a continuation. Well, maybe we did actually because he was in Spider-Man: No Way Home, wasn't he?
yeah.
Um, I am looking forward to the fact that they all came back for it. It wasn't
Yeah.
just picking and choosing. I also did kind of want to see them recast Kingpin. To be honest, I was very
Really?
disappointed with what they did with him in Hawkeye. He kind of
Okay.
looked like one of those. Is it the Coopers or something from the Super Mario Brothers film where it's this kind of small pea head with this huge body that's clearly a
Mm.
suit.
I
Um,
mm. I mean, I loved I do love Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin from the Daredevil show, and I did. It was good seeing him again in Hawkeye. Because I actually enjoyed Hawkeye. I mean, the last episode was sucked, but the rest of the show I actually enjoyed very much.
that's
Um,
often the case with these Disney
MC,
Plus shows,
yeah,
isn't it? Where the it's
mm,
good and it peaks at episode 4 or something, and
yeah.
then five's not very good, and then the sixth one's just terrible.
Yeah, that's my problem with the MCU TV shows. Is that the first? I've got two problems with them. One is that they don't actually feel like TV shows. They feel like movies that have been like I've said this before on the pod, but they feel like films that have been chopped up into like different episodes, and it doesn't really flow as well because I think Marvel just approach them like they approach their films, and I think that's how you should approach a TV show. There's a reason why TV and film have been different mediums for decades, and why it should probably stay that way. And the second reason is that it starts off really good and the finale always lets it down. It's just, and that's been the case for like most of the MCU TV shows. The first couple, I can forgive it. I can forget like the first year they started doing it, which is 2021. I can forgive them. Like
They're,
One
they're
Division,
finding the feet, aren't they?
yeah, exactly. You're finding your feet, but when you get to like it's Secret Wars and stuff like that, and you're still running into the same problem,
I forgot
like
about that one.
Secret Invasion. Sorry,
Yeah, Secret Invasion. That was
Invasion.
the worst one. I forgot
God,
about it.
yeah. Again, and it was the same problem. It was like start off interesting enough, and then the final episode just tanked. Like, Emma, what's her name? Uh,
Amelia Clark. I don't know
Emilia
the.
Clarke is now the most overpowered person in the MCU, and no, no, just stop that now.
And it
Delete
cost
that
so
shit.
much money, eh? Like 200 million or something.
God, delete that shit.
How many
Delete it.
Godzilla minus ones could they have made with that?
God, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Um, The reason why I brought up Daredevil Born Again is just because obviously this film's R-rated. And do you think this is going to be a launch pad for more R-rated projects in the MCU? What R-rated MCU projects would you like to see in the future? If
In general, or
Yeah,
R-rated ones?
like in general, like more R-rated projects in the MCU. Do you want to see more, or do you think keep it for
Too
Deadpool?
right. I want to see more. I think. I mean, this film made $1 billion. It's
Exactly.
one of the highest grossing films of the MCU. So I can't see
Yeah.
why they wouldn't
It's
make more R-rated ones.
also yesterday it became the highest grossing R-rated film ever made.
Right. Okay. I mean, was one of the Deadpool films already that, or was
No, no, no.
Passion of the Christ
Passion of the Christ. It because there's a joke they make, where it's
where
like
there's where they
Passion
don't have Jesus?
Yeah, Passion of the Christ, and then me. We beat him overseas, but overall we can't. We're still lost to him. But now it's overtaken Passion of the Christ now, and it's the highest grossing R-rated film ever made.
I mean,
Actually, I think
R-rated films are doing good. Joker 2's out this year. That'll do
oh,
good.
that'll be good.
Um, yeah. In terms of, I mean, you have to do Blade
Yeah,
R-rated. I'm assuming if
yeah,
they're going to do a Gambit one, that'll probably be R-rated. I'd love
mm,
to see. I remember when Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse came out, and I loved
yeah,
the animation style so much that I wanted to see the X-Men done in that style, or
Mm,
the Infinity War saga redone in that animation style because it was so bright, it was so vibrant, it was
yeah.
so colourful.
Well, I
Um,
think. Sorry, you go.
no, no, no. So what I'd like now that we've opened the door to possible R-rated films is seeing the X-Men, like their MCU's version of X-Men done R-rated.
Oh, really?
I don't think we're going to get it with something like Fantastic Four, but I think
No.
X-Men would warrant that.
Oh, okay.
Um, I think just because it deals with identity, there's so many dark
Yeah.
storylines you could go with.
Exactly. Yeah.
We've already had the Sentinel saga as a
Mm,
PG-13 film. Let's try and see it darker, where we have like
yeah.
prison camps, and let's really lean into that, like horrific
Oh, yeah.
imagery. Although they do
Mm,
tend to push the R the PG-13 rating. We should say
yeah.
12. I don't know why I'm saying PG-13, but we're in the UK. I'll say 12.
Yeah. 12. Yeah.
12. Yeah, I mean, like I say, Blade has to be. I can't see why they
Mm.
wouldn't.
Yeah, I feel like that's probably one of the main reasons why Blade took so long. It's taking so long because when they did it when they first announced it, I think they were initially going to go PG-13, but then eventually they changed their minds and went with R. Probably because they couldn't make him work in PG-13. I mean, they can't make him work in rated R if reports are to be believed. Uh,
Mhm.
but we are getting some more R-rated projects. Obviously, we've got Daredevil Born Again. Have you seen the leak trailer from D23 or not?
I've seen. I've not seen the. I've seen a leaked still of
Mm.
Harrison Ford as Red
Oh,
Hulk.
from Red Hulk, yeah.
Yeah, and I've seen the leaked trailer for Daredevil and Thunderbolts. I was going to say
Yeah.
Thunderbirds then. Thunderbolts,
Yeah. No,
which
that's
I don't think that's going to be R rated. I think
no.
they're already doing their version of Suicide Squad,
Yeah.
which even the good Suicide Squad film bombed. So I,
Mm,
I can't imagine them leaning heavily into rated R, especially when you have Winter Soldier, which is rated 12.
yeah.
I think that's just fine as it is.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
I mean,
Uh,
R rated doesn't warrant it for everything. I don't want
oh, yeah.
like the Zack Snyder thing where you have a rated 12 version and then an R rated version. Um, it's one or the other. I don't, in the trailer for Deadpool and Wolverine, you have the TVA getting killed, but there's none of the blood that you get in the film, in the actual film.
Mm,
Um, I was going to say they removed that, but it's in post anyway, so they just didn't add it for the trailer.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. They could have kept it hidden just because they wanted to wow the audience on how how bloody the film's going to be. We have got a couple. Obviously, we got Daredevil Born Again. I've seen the leaked trailer. It looks pretty good. Kamala Khan's dad from Miss Marvel's in it for some reason, which I was completely surprised by.
I missed that.
Yeah, but we'll see what happens. We'll see what his storyline's about. Marvel Zombies as well. That's going to be rated R. That's going to be based
What
on
is
the.
that? Is that like a what if
So there was
animated thing?
in the I think it was the fifth or sixth episode of season one of What If they did a Marvel Zombies episode, and they're going to do a whole show based on that in that world where zombies took over the Marvel universe. I don't know whose characters are going to be in it or anything like that, or who's coming back from the films to reprise their roles in voiceover and stuff. But we'll see what happens with that.
I mean, for what if they can kind of go different avenues now because they've introduced the mutants to it. So now they could do House of M, which is such a
Yeah,
great run. Which I don't think it'd work as a film because it basically
no.
means reinventing superheroes, but as maybe a separate, like what Zombies is. Maybe House of M could be an animated series on Disney Plus.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I think What If's ending after season three now. I think they're packing that in, but they could do House of M as its own separate show. To be honest, that
Yeah,
would
it's
be
like an alternate thing, isn't it?
yeah.
It's
Because I
like
know
what
that.
the Ultimates were, the Ultimate Avengers and stuff,
Yeah. Exactly.
or
Yeah.
2099, where you had
Yeah.
reinventions of Doctor Doom and Spider Man, but in the
Mm.
future.
Yeah, exactly. And I think Marvel have actually. I think there's rumors running around that Marvel actually want to do more animated stuff after X Men '97. I think there's rumors they're going to do a '90s kind of universe where they could bring back the '90s Spider-Man show. They could do a Daredevil cartoon set in that style and have it be all set in the same universe. That'd be really cool to see. I think they want to get into doing animated films as well, so you could end up getting that X Men film with the Spider Verse
Style. Yeah.
style, depending if Sony want to actually share technology with Marvel to do to do it because they own the
Is the
technology.
Spider-Man? I remember years ago they announced it. It was like a. Is it called freshman years or something?
Yeah, so that's coming out in December, I think. I think they talked about it at D23 this year. That's coming out in December. I think that's going to be
Really?
another what if kind of scenario
Yeah.
where it shows the origin of the kind of MCU Peter Parker thing. I think originally it was supposed to be the origin of Tom Holland's Peter Parker, like as in you see him getting bitten by a spider, you see Uncle Ben dying. I think halfway through development they changed it to just being a multiverse what if scenario instead. So instead of Tony Stark coming up to his apartment, it's Norman Osborn. So that'll be interesting dynamic to look at. Yeah,
Okay.
so
Yeah, because I think is it Coleman Domingo is
yeah,
uh, voicing Osborn, which
yeah,
was
yeah,
strange because I know there was fan casting of him replacing Jonathan Majors as
yeah,
Kang. I think it'd just be a bit of a waste showing the origin of that character in an animated series, which
mm,
most people who go to see the next Spider-Man film won't have seen.
yeah, exactly, yeah.
I think they're
Well,
just wasting some good material, on perhaps another Disney Plus show that people won't really see.
yeah, exactly. I mean, I'd love to if they ever do like they get around to doing the symbiote in this Tom Holland films. I'd love for them to maybe because there's have you ever watched Spectacular Spider-Man at all?
Is that the one with the guy from Drake and Josh?
No, that's the one with that's Ultimate Spider-Man.
Oh no, I haven't. No, I mean I've not seen that one, so I don't know why I asked that. But
That's right.
no,
Spectacular Spider-Man is the show that came out before the Ultimate Spider-Man TV show with Drake Bell. So basically, that show starts off with him already being Spider-Man. So it kind of so his origins not actually shown until episode 11 because they do the symbiote storyline for the last three episodes. So he gets the suit, and then the suit corrupts him, and you actually see his origin in a flashback. So that that the symbiote's causing him to have. So he's reliving those events where Uncle Ben dies and everything like that. And you see him getting bitten by a spider, but it's all in flashback due to the symbiote corrupting him. I would love to like if they did that with the Tom Holland films. So like you see his origin just as a nice little flashback, and you finally get to see the MCU Uncle Ben.
especially
Uh,
if they do Venom right.
yeah,
Hopefully they'll do it right for the third time.
yeah,
Or third
I'm like,
time's a charm.
yeah,
But yeah,
yeah.
that'd be good because I always remember I think it was the '90s Spider-Man
Mm,
animated series where they had a great run of the black suit spider, and they had this kind
yeah,
of dream sequence where he's getting torn apart by the
yeah,
black symbiote and the kind of the the symbiote that's kind of looking like the pattern of the Spider-Man outfit. If I remember
mm,
correctly, it's been a while,
yeah,
but
yeah,
you could do a lot of imagery with that, especially if you get Sam Raimi back to
yeah, exactly.
redeem Venom.
Mm. Well, I think the thing with Sam Raimi and Venom is that there's a massive misconception on that where a lot of people seem to think that he hates Venom because there was that weird rumor running around on forums and stuff. But in reality, he just wasn't very familiar with Venom. Like Venom was more of a big popular villain in like the 90s or the 80s,
It was,
and
I think, it was a
yeah,
studio decision, wasn't it, to
yeah, it was yeah.
throw
So
another villain in
yeah,
Spider-Man 3.
so like Sam Raimi was more into the classic villains like Sandman, Vulture, Green Goblin, Doc Ock, but Venom was a more modern recent villain that he just wasn't familiar with, and that's why he didn't want to do Venom because it's like I don't know this character, so why would I adapt him for my film?
Please
But
just do it right.
mm.
Next time, do it right, because the Venom films are terrible.
Oh god, yeah, that's shit.
Terrible. And I
They're
don't
fucking
care about
horrible.
Venom Horse. I don't care we got Venom Horse before GTA 6. I don't care about any of that, because the
No.
second one was terrible.
Yeah, exactly. It was just the Venom films. I hate. I watched the first one on Netflix back in 2020. And I was just there like, what the fuck am I even watching? Like, and the thing is, I feel bad for Tom Hardy because I genuinely feel like it's probably one of his worst performances. I don't think he even knows what he's doing half the time in those films, and I
He
hate.
doesn't know what he's doing for the last 10 years, Connor.
Yeah, exactly.
Is all of it. All of his. He just wants to do an accent in his
Yeah.
film. So you look at him in Bike Riders, he's terrible.
Oh god.
Capone, he's terrible. He's
Mm.
kind of become the new Marlon Brando, where he's the undirectable actor, where he knows what he's doing and he's going to just go for that. regardless of
Yeah.
how bad it sounds. So with
Mm.
Venom, he was doing a Woody Allen impression.
Yeah.
Like that's not what Venom.
Yeah.
I understand what you're doing. You're trying to kind of, um, like you were saying about Hugh Jackman in the first X-Men film, where he's trying to kind of seem smaller than he is,
Yeah.
and whatever that meant. But that's not what you should be doing, Tom Hardy. I don't
Mm.
know why they just keep going with these bad decisions, and that is talking about a terrible franchise. That what Sony are doing still with Morbius and
Oh,
Madam Web and
yeah.
Craven, which I don't even know is still coming out this year, or is
It
that
is.
next year?
It's coming out December this year.
Woo!
They released a new trailer today, and it just looks
Oh, have
really
they?
yeah.
I
It's
don't know
gonna
why I
look
seem
garbage.
excited. I'm not, but
Yeah.
I'll
It
watch
it
it.
looks like garbage. It looks
R
like garbage.
rated. That's going to be R rated. I
Yeah.
think it'll
It
probably
is. Yeah.
bomb, and then that might make Disney reconsider releasing these kind of sea level uh, comic book characters into R rated movies.
Hmm. Well, I mean, I don't think Disney has any say in the Sony spin-off ones. I think it's just the Tom Holland ones. I think.
Yeah, but I think maybe they'll see the performance of that film, and
Yeah.
maybe they'll go, maybe people don't want to see these characters that we don't know, especially
Hmm.
when you do R rated, because it kind of limits the demographic of audiences who can
Yeah.
go and see it.
Hmm.
So
No, I get.
you're doing an R-rated film for a character that people don't know, Craven.
Yeah. Like
Aaron
people
Taylor
don't.
Johnson's not really a name.
Hmm.
I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. And going back to Tom Hardy's accent in Venom, he sounds like a 5-year-old. Literally, he sounds like he's 5 years old in that film. He's like, "Your boss is an evil person,
Your
whining in
boss
my
is an
ear
evil
all the
person. Your
time,
boss is an evil person. How do you alien space? You know what I'm saying?
whining in my ear all the time about eating bad
I
guys."
remember
It's like,
for a fan film I played um, Venom. It was like
yeah,
a
I saw
little.
it.
It was like a little. It was for a friend who was doing like a demonstration of what you could do with this new software, and it was just basically there as an example of CGI. So I remember specifically watching Venom, knowing
Mm,
what not to do.
yeah,
I mean, it's Tom Hardy. He's one of the biggest actors in the world. He's not going to listen to what you should do with that character,
yeah.
But I remember just listening to that accent, going, right, just don't sound like that.
Yeah, I remember watching it. I don't know if I was so tempted to message you and be like, "You're way better than Tom Hardy."
I mean, thank you, but it's for a little
Yeah,
fan film. It's not for
yeah,
um, a hundred and
yeah,
fifty million dollar film.
yeah. But we do need to get back on topic though, because we've trailed off
Oh, we
massively.
have, haven't we?
Yeah,
That's the thing with these MCU things. You can just ramble on forever.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So we'll talk about Deadpool and Wolverine being a Secret Wars, Doomsday. Do you think they're going to be in it, Dan?
I think Hugh Jackman will definitely come back.
Yeah,
I think they'll have to do it with that costume now.
yeah,
I don't think Deadpool will. I think he'll maybe they'll mention him in like a throwaway gag that they'll
yeah.
have Wolverine say, but I don't think he will appear in it. I think maybe he'll be in the end credit sequence,
Hmm.
which they will have one. I think they'll do like a little Howard the Duck style breaking the fourth wall, but
Yeah.
I think that's all it'll be reserved to.
I get that. Um, I'm definitely think Hugh Jackman's coming back. 100%. There's no doubt. I'll go on a limb. I do think that Ryan Reynolds will come back. I think Deadpool will come back. I think because there's that line in the film towards the end when B-15, who's head of the TVA now, she says something to him. Oh. Rest up, gentlemen. I don't think your work's finished yet, and something like that. And I think she's speaking specifically to the both of them. So I think Wade will definitely be in Secret Wars. After that line, to what role he'll play, we'll have to see how they handle him. Especially when you consider the fact that he'll definitely be in a PG-13 environment. And the last time Deadpool was in one of those was Once Upon a Deadpool, which was that PG-13 version of Deadpool 2 they did
Oh, the
for
Christmas one.
yeah for charity. But also, I think because Disney wanted to see if they
He'll.
could make it
I
work.
tell you what they're going to do. They're going to have him come in as like a shawarma delivery guy or something. When the Avengers are at their lowest, he'll just come
Yeah,
in. You'll hear like bap 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 bap, and he'll be on like a little scooter that he's stolen from Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man,
yeah,
Spider-Man 2. And he'll just come in and deliver shawarmas
maybe. Yeah,
and
I
some
mean,
lemon slices, orange slices for Ant-Man.
yeah, possibly. Yeah, I mean that could be a possibility. But again, I do think he'll be in it. And you could play around with the PG-13 thing, like maybe because obviously there's that thing with PG-13 films, you get one F bomb. Like maybe the joke is that someone
I
steals
think
his
I
F bomb.
think as well. I can picture it. He's gonna say it, and then someone else will come in with "fuck,"
Yeah,
and then he'll
exactly.
go, "That was mine." Or,
It's
or
like,
he'll swear and they'll just bleep it out, like in
yeah, that could be
Puss in
funny.
Boots: The Last Wish, where you have the
Oh
little
yeah,
dog swearing constantly and just bleeping it out.
yeah, exactly. I do think he'll be in. He'll definitely be in Secret Wars. I don't know about Doomsday. I think Doomsday will just be the build up to Secret Wars, if
I think that's
anything.
them kind of doing The Force Awakens, where it's kind of reinventing the MCU in a way.
Mm. Well, I
I
think
think
that's the whole. I think that's their. I think that's their whole aim after Secret Wars is to kind of soft reboot it and start again in a weird way. Because I think it has gone a bit big, include way too big and way more convoluted now. I think they do need to streamline it again.
yes. I think that's the problem with having something like the TVA and the
Mm.
multiverse saga, where it kind of opens up this world to so much
Yeah.
more possibilities, and yet they don't
Mm.
really feel that they're um, progressing it in a way that
Yeah.
is worth watching.
Exactly. Yeah, this saga has felt like they're making up as they go along compared to the last saga where it felt planned.
Yes, yeah, there was sort of a through line for it, and
Mm,
this just kind of feels disjointed. I think a big problem is also being on Disney Plus, where you have these series
yeah,
which you're not sure you know how they play into it.
yeah, exactly. And the amount of this is why I think fan service and stuff like that is becoming a bit of a problem because you're essentially because the thing is, I've said this beforehand, I'll say it again. Never underestimate the power of the casual viewer because more often than not, you see a movie's box office, you see in film, you see a TV show's ratings. They're casual viewers. Majority of them are going to be casual viewers. They're not going to be like the big diehard fans. I think they're going to make it. I think once you start losing your casual viewers, that's when you start to realize just how small your fan base actually is, and you need to keep the casual viewers around. And that's what's so great about the Infinity Saga. I never read the comic books growing up. I watched a lot of the films, and because of that, I felt like I could just jump in whichever film, and if there was a specific moment they were referring to from a previous film, they'll just have a couple of lines of array dialogue and just be like, "Yep, there you go. There's your backstory. Now just enjoy the film where you're watching now." And that's kind of got lost with this multiverse saga where now it's kind of like, no, you have to watch this in order to get this. It's like before it was you don't have to watch this previous thing, but if you want to enhance your experience, you should, but you don't have to. But now it's like, no, you have to. Like Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, for example, it's like, no, you have to watch the previous Doctor Strange film. You have to watch Infinity War. You have to watch Endgame.
And
You have
One
to watch
Division.
and you have to watch One Division so you can understand everything. And it's just like it's one of those things where it's just like, again, there's so much homework provided now. It's just one of those things where a lot of casual viewers are just getting alienated. That's why this movie's doing well at the box office, because a lot of casual viewers are like, hey, I watched the last two Deadpool films, I'm gonna just go and jump in and watch this, because it's not going to alienate them as massively as maybe a previous Deadpool film, a previous MCU film, like the Marvels, for example, where you have to watch Captain Marvel 1, you have to watch Infinity War, you have to watch Endgame, but also now you have to watch One Division, you have to watch Miss Marvel. That's 5 projects you have to watch in order to prepare yourself for that film. And it's just like, I don't think people are going to really want to do that much homework. I mean, the Marvels wasn't advertised well, anyways. That's no one wants to go see it. But even then, like, I think that's what's turned people off. It's like, oh, I actually have to do the homework now. And yeah, I just think a soft rebooting it and going back to kind of not alienating your casual viewers is kind of the way to go.
Yes, yeah. Was the Marvels the last MCU film?
Yeah, that came out in November.
Right. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
been a big gap, hasn't it? Apart
yeah, I
from
think.
like the lockdown years, that was I think probably
mm,
the biggest gap since um, Iron Man started the MCU.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think they originally were going to have loads of other films coming out this year, but I think they decided to stick with Deadpool and Wolverine because I think they wanted to do a massive restructure because obviously after Bob Iger left Disney and Bob Chapek came in, I think what happened was Bob Chapek actually took away a lot of Kevin Feige's authority at Marvel Studios, and he was like, "You have to answer to me and these people, and if we tell you to do something, you have to do it." Which is kind of why initially Phase 4 was just going to be a couple of projects and that was it. But then once he came into the picture, he was like, "No, no, no, She-Hulk, go make that. Miss Marvel, go make that." He treated Disney Plus like a pump and dump almost,
Mm.
where pump the content out, dump it. I don't care if it's good, just pump it and dump it. It doesn't matter. And that's why they had to get Bob Iger back in because he was running the whole thing into the ground, literally.
It seems
And
it, doesn't it?
yeah, exactly. And now Kevin Feige's got his authority back. It's not really a big coincidence that after that he's like, right, we're delaying Captain America 4, we're reshooting it, we're restarting from scratch with Daredevil Born Again. This is not good. This is not up to our regular quality like before. We need to get back to how it was before, and probably why they've got the Russo brothers back to do Avengers
I think they're
Doomsday.
kind of in panic mode, aren't they?
Yeah, I think they are. Yeah.
I think
um,
as well because I mean I think the Russo brothers were the best filmmaking team you could bring back
mm,
to tell these stories.
yeah,
I mean, I don't think they should have brought another actor back, but I'm
yeah.
glad they brought the two directors from those
Mm.
projects.
We'll talk more about that in a little bit because I've got quite a big thing to say on the Russos coming back. But for now, we'll talk about how we feel like this handles the X-Men and the mutants for the MCU because Kevin Feige did say this is going to be the start of them getting integrated into the MCU. How do you feel this helped set those up? Because this is the first proper time we've heard the word mutant ushered in an MCU film before, if I'm not mistaken.
I think, yeah, I didn't particularly like the series Miss Marvel, but I think they mentioned mutant
I
in
think
that, didn't they?
they say mutation. So if I
Mutation, and then did they
yeah,
have like a music cue?
yeah, they have the playing in the background.
I remember that. I think it's good, but I think it works best as fan service,
Mm,
like the Channing Tatum Gambit, like the Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. I could
yeah,
see him continuing on as Wolverine, but I do think that they need to kind of, again, what we were saying earlier with bringing back Evan Peters as Quicksilver in One
mm,
Division, where they had Aaron Taylor Johnson, who is now Craven, play
yeah,
Quicksilver in the actual sacred timeline, whatever you want to call it. I like the idea of just starting from scratch.
yeah, exactly,
Again,
yeah,
I would like to see Hugh Jackman back because he is so good. But I think if you're going to introduce the X Men into this sacred timeline, it should be with no previous expectations of what we've had in other franchises. I think it should just be okay from now on. Start from scratch and recast everyone, like what
mm,
James Gunn has done with the DCU films, where
yeah.
I don't think Jason Momoa's back as Aquaman. Gal
No,
Gadot's probably not going to be Wonder Woman.
no,
If
she's not.
you
No.
can't just pick and choose projects to go, oh, we like this actor in that role, we'll keep him. I think you have to just go right. Um, whether it be from Secret Wars onwards or after Secret Wars, because Hugh Jackman will be in it. I think only because I've
Yeah,
seen him in recent interviews and he still looks quite buff.
yeah, he does.
When I
Yeah,
look on his IMDb, there's nothing there that indicates why he should be in that physical state, unless he is holding out for a call
mm.
from Kevin Feige.
Yeah, I do think they need to start fresh again. I think maybe they could do the first X-Men film in Phase 6 because we don't know a lot of what's going on in Phase 6 except for the fact that it starts with Fantastic Four, it ends with Avengers Doomsday and Secret Wars.
Okay, so
Um, I-
just a question. So we're in phase five now because I
we're
kind of
still in
lost
Phase
track
5.
after. Okay, so Ant Man and the
I don't
Wasp:
I don't blame
Quantumania.
you.
What was that? Was that phase four?
No, Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania was the start of Phase 5.
Start of
But
phase five.
yeah, but I don't blame you for being because all the dates shufflings and stuff like that is like, what's the start? What's the beginning? Like, apparently, Daredevil Born Again is going to be the end of Phase 5, and then Fantastic Four will be the start of Phase
So
6.
from phase six onwards, that's what I'm looking forward to because
Yeah,
I think Fantastic Four has potential.
yeah,
Doomsday, I mean, it's the next big Avengers film, so I think you have to be interested in that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Um, I do think with the because I did a podcast recently saying, can the mutants save the MCU? That was a couple of months ago, and what I said in there was that I feel like the next saga, which is rumored to be the mutant saga, so phases 7 to 9, will be focused on mutants and stuff like that. And from what I think that should be the case. I think maybe you can introduce them in this saga, maybe like in the first film, but ideally I would prefer an entire saga based around them because I think the whole idea of mutants is so big and huge. I think just having a couple of films, I
Well,
think
it's
the
not
whole
only that. It's
yeah,
not the MCU is not the Avengers saga, is it?
exactly, yeah,
So it's a good point you make, where it could be phase 5, 6, whatever it is the mutant saga, where the big tentpole films aren't Avengers films but X-Men films.
exactly, yeah. And like I said before, and like I said in that previous episode, you could have it where the ending to Phase 9, which will be the conclusion to the mutant saga, is instead of an Avengers film, do Dark Phoenix again, but like have that be the overall ending conclusion to that to um
and
to that
and do it
entire
right
saga.
and do
Yeah,
it
do it
right this
right.
time.
Do it right this time.
Third
Split
time's
into,
a charm.
yeah, split into two parts and actually flesh it out. Let's do it. Let's go. Let's
Oh,
fucking go.
holy shit! Let's
Um,
fucking go.
yeah, let's fucking go. And yeah, like I said, I do want to see a more divided MCU when it comes to mutants. I don't want all the heroes to rally around the mutants. I actually want to see some of them divide, like questioning on: do we trust the mutants? Do we not trust the mutants? I want to see that conflict because I feel like that could be even more interesting. Like I said before, you could have it where, say Bruce Banner's Hulk fights Wolverine, he nearly gets killed, and then because of that, he's a bit more wary about mutants. He's a bit more like they could be more dangerous and in the wrong hands or something like that, and he grows a slight prejudice towards mutants, and stuff like that. You could
What
have it where certain characters like have that prejudice. Obviously, they get over it in the end. They support them in the end, but at the start of the mutant saga, maybe because the whole thing resets and mutants become this new discovery in a weird way. People are kind of like, we don't know how to treat them, how to what how to accept them to society. Do we like them? Do we fear them? All those kind of questions.
it
And
could
I
be
do
it
like
could
that.
be an event in a film where it's kind of like the snap, because that had
Yeah,
such a
exactly.
big impact on the MCU. Maybe this generates a new form of life in some way, where it kind of awakens this gene, where it's
Mm,
not just um, like an allegory for puberty. It's
yeah,
actually some form of kind of, well, mutation,
yeah, exactly.
like a radiation or something like that, which kind of transform you and opens up the possibility of having powers. And
Mm,
that's a way of kind of introducing the mutants or the X-Men where
yeah.
we've not had them before, because they've had such a big impact on the history of comic books. I think, yeah, if you're going to start from scratch, kind of have it where there's a big event which then uh, introduces the mutants into this world.
Exactly, yeah. And I want to see a world where other heroes are loved and supported and appreciated, like Captain America, Iron Man, um, who else? Hulk, Black Widow, stuff like that. They're all celebrated, held as pedestal, but everyone hates the mutants. Yeah, the mutants are kind of seen as something to be feared, and I want that to be. I do again. I want to see a more divided kind of MCU because I think that could create some good, interesting conflict. Like
Of course, yeah.
yeah, like you could see, like maybe, like I could totally. I said this before, but I could totally imagine Tony Stark if he was still around, if they did the Mutant Registration Act. The one in the first X-Men film, where they have to reveal themselves. Like
Yes.
I could totally see Tony Stark actually signing that. To be honest, because he was quick to sign those Sokovia Accords and Secret Wars.
He was, wasn't
Anyway,
he? I remember reading the comic book thinking that it would be swapped if they did it in the film, where it would actually be Iron Man as the rogue and
hmm,
not the hero, and Captain America being the one who's for the government.
yeah,
I always thought,
exactly.
because I remember there was a point where it seemed that everything revolved around Iron Man, where you had Mysterio and he had a relationship with Tony Stark in the past,
Yeah.
and other characters in Spider-Man. So I thought what they were going to do is have sort of the Sentinel program being a program that was somewhat started by either Tony Stark or his father. Because
Oh
in the
wow.
comic books, the Sentinels kind of have arc reactors on their chest. So I
Yeah.
thought what it was going to be was kind of a um, they sold the patent to Bolivar Trask, who then creates the Sentinel program, not knowing that it would be used for nefarious purposes. And that what would happen is Tony Stark feeling guilty, like the whole demon in a bottle storyline in the comics, which they kind of touched upon in Iron Man 2, where he was
Yeah.
like an alcoholic and basically what Robert Downey Jr. was
Mm.
before, well, for most of his life by the
Yeah.
sound of things.
Yeah.
And what he would do is kind of feeling guilty, he would create this splinter group called the X-Men where he would fund Cerebro and fund the Danger Room as a way of
Mm.
kind of training this alternative Avengers group
Yeah.
to train them in order to fight this Frankenstein monster that he's created with the Sentinel program.
Mm.
If they were going to do it, I thought that would be a way that they could have done it, but they kind of nicely wrapped up Tony Stark's story where they have to kind of again move on.
Yeah. No, I completely get that, and that sounds like a really good theory. To be fair, um, to be honest, and yeah, I just think like again having a more conflicted MCU would be a more good approach. Even with like characters like Miss Marvel, for example, who was obviously in the comic book she was an Inhuman, but now she's a mutant in the MCU, which kind of was apparently was always the idea for her. Like they always wanted to make her a mutant, but because Fox owned the film rights, they couldn't do it. So they did it for the TV show. That could even play a good role where she comes out as a mutant to her parents, but they disown her. They're like, we don't want you, and then she has to join the X-Men. That could be a really good powerful and emotional kind of scene for her, and it kind of shows again like even the best people who you think would be good, would be accepting, would can shock you and can surprise you. And again, it show this conflict with where they're causing there's this big debate going on because you saw in X-Men 97 like the debate with the mutants being with humans constantly in that series, and it was very impactful, and the commentary was there and it was strong and it was evident, and that's kind of what I want from the MCU's X-Men.
It's a way
I
of
do.
bringing in politics as well, isn't it? Like where Civil
Yeah.
War was quite political with the
Oh yeah.
Sokovia Accords. You could do something
Mhm.
similar with, like you said, the Registration Act.
Yeah, exactly.
And
And
the X Men is there as an allegory for what homosexuality.
yeah,
All the this is why this was created. There were kind of people who were outsiders, shone from society,
yeah, exactly.
and it opens
And
up so many new avenues that you could do with the MCU, which hopefully they um, prioritize in the next couple of years.
yeah, take advantage of it and use that to tell new stories and interesting stories and just help engage the audience again, which I think has been lacking a little bit with this saga anyway, unfortunately.
Yeah, I think as well because, like I said, Everything Everywhere All at Once you mentioned earlier, that was
Yeah.
such a good film, and that came out unfortunately the same year as Doctor Strange too.
Oh
So it
yeah,
kind of
exactly.
it showed how to do the multiverse right.
Yeah. I honestly wouldn't be surprised if the Daniels got a call from Kevin Feige being like, "Hey, do you want to do a film for us?" And they're like, "No,
No, stick to what they're doing. I think.
yeah, we don't want to. We don't want to sell out just yet. We don't want to sell out just yet."
No, stick to
Um,
A24. I think. I think
yeah,
most studios should um, take note of A24.
yeah. This A24 is doing a great job so far with their films. I really want to see that new Andrew Garfield and Florence Pugh one. What was it? We Live in Time.
We live in time. Yeah,
Yeah, I can't wait for that to come out. I really want to see that. I think it comes out January next year, so that'll be a nice soft January film to start to kick the year off really nicely. But yeah, so that's we're gonna go off topic for Deadpool Wolverine for now, and we're gonna go on to Marvel's Comic Con panel and D23 announcements as well. So, first thing, Captain America 4. Um, I'm guessing you've already seen the trailer to this, Dan, or
yes,
Mm.
the one that was released on YouTube a couple
Yeah.
of months ago.
Yeah, yeah. I watched the trailer and I thought, you know what, looks pretty good. I like Sam Wilson as Captain America. I think he needs his own film. To be honest, I think this is long overdue, and hopefully the reshoots and everything was worth it because they need to get it right. I think if they want to get the audience back on board, because the last few Captain America films were big and huge for him, and the Captain America 4, especially if this is Sam Wilson's first go at a proper film rather than Falcon Winter Soldier. That was his origin story in a weird way, building up to him becoming Captain America. Um, but uh, but this one's his first proper go at fully embracing that role and fully becoming Captain America. And again, I like the idea with Red Hulk and Harrison Ford looks good as Thunderbolt Ross. I didn't really like the mustache joke though, just because the previous actor died, and it's just a bit. I don't know. It wasn't disrespectful. It was just a bit. I don't know, a bit weird. You know what I'm talking about? The line where he's like, "Oh, either lose the
Yes.
mustache, yeah," and it's just a bit like, "Come on, man! Previous actor died. Just do the, the Don Cheadle thing where they just be like, "Oh yeah, I look different," and that's it." Maybe Iron Man 2.
Don't mention it.
Yeah, don't mention it. But yeah, I think it needs to be good. And the leader as well. I'm glad we're finally getting around to him after so many years. It'll be interesting to see.
2008,
Was
Incredible
that sorry?
Hulk. 2008, The Incredible
Yeah,
Hulk.
yeah, pretty much.
Oof.
Yeah. And will be interesting to see how he is. Thunderbolts also looks interesting. I think that'll be an interesting film. I'm kind of on the lookout for that because that looks like Marvel's
Have you
Suicide
seen
Squad.
Have you seen the leaked trailer for that?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I was pretty impressed with it, to be honest.
It looks a bit like to me. It looks like Black Widow 2.
Oh really?
It looks just like a sequel to Black Widow, to be honest.
Mm,
I mean, it might be fine.
mm,
Sentry's a interesting character to introduce in this film because he's
yeah.
such a powerful being.
Mm,
Um, but also quickly while we on Captain America, when
mm,
I watched the trailer, I knew it was coming out, but I watched it with Zoe, my girlfriend,
yeah.
and she was very surprised at the end when it said in theaters February or whatever it is, because
Yeah.
it looks just like a continuation of Falcon and Winter Soldier, the series.
Mm.
So I think perhaps it looked more like a straight to Disney Plus movie or a miniseries than an actual theatrical film.
Oh dear. That's not good.
No, no, no. I think maybe we just kind of spoilt for so much content that
Maybe,
it's
yeah.
it's it's, it's quite easy to be distracted with regard to what's getting theatrical release and what's just getting straight to Disney Plus.
Mm. No, I get what you mean with that. But yeah, I do think Captain America 4 looks pretty good. I just hope it is good. I'm just hoping
Well,
because
it's a very good, it's a very well edited trailer.
mm,
I like the with the
yeah, yeah, I
like
love
the little
that.
visual effects. That was cool.
Mm,
I'm not sure how he's going to face off against a Hulk.
mm. But I think
Um,
that's the interesting thing about it though, because he doesn't have the super soldier serum. So how is he going to defeat Red Hulk?
you just fly away, wouldn't you?
Probably, yeah. Um, you probably would just fly away, but I don't think Sam Wilson will do
You'd
that. I
fly
think
away
he
to that big celestial that's coming out the ground.
Oh yeah, yeah, because that's going to be involved, and I think that's going to how Antimantium's going to be involved in that. Because there's rumors that Wolverine might be in it, like, but we'll see what
I
happens with
mean,
that.
they mentioned Madripoor in the TV series, which I think has some form of connection with um,
Yeah,
Wolverine in the
yeah,
comics.
except
I
when,
th-
when it was Patch.
right, okay, all
Yeah,
right, okay.
I think it
Which
was
was
when it was
obviously
Patch.
in Deadpool Wolverine.
Yeah,
I read as well that it was going to be the Celestial was going to be kind of, is it Genosha, the almost the breeding ground of mutants, which Magneto runs.
yeah, I think so. Yeah,
I,
Genosha.
I
Yeah,
think Genosha, yeah, I had a feeling that that would be something like that. They could maybe have it as like the Savage Land or something if they want to go really weird and have kind of dinosaurs in it.
yeah, they could do. Yeah, I mean, but again, we'll have to see. I think they want to ground Captain America 4 in reality in a bit more realism though, like they did the first couple.
Yeah, then having like a dinosaur in it, a flying pterodactyl called
Yeah,
Sauron.
I think Red Hulk's and a big green leader is probably enough fantasy for them for one film.
Yes, we'll see how the leader looks as well. I'm curious.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see about that. Fantastic Four: First Steps. I don't know why they're calling it First Steps. Bit of a
Terrible.
weird title. Yeah, but I'm going to say this right now: this film needs to be good. Fantastic Four actually needs to be good because we have not had a good Fantastic Four film. We've had good Captain America films, so if Captain America 4 sucks, whatever. We've had good Daredevil TV shows with Daredevil, the Netflix show and stuff like that. So again, if Born Again sucks, doesn't matter. We've got the Netflix show to go back to. The Fantastic Four needs a good film because we've not had a single Fantastic Four film that has been good.
We've had three attempts. We had
Yep.
one in the 90s, Roger
Yeah.
Corman. We
Yeah.
had the ones in 2000s, which, as mentioned, it kind of fits in that gap where I do actually like them. I went to see them. I went to see the first one on my birthday. I'd have been
Nice.
12 or 13, which,
Wow.
if you remember Jessica Alba in that, I think that's a good year to see that film.
Yeah.
Same as the second one. I went to see that with my dad. Really liked it. I understand to some degree people's complaints, but I do actually like them. So
Yeah.
it needs to be, yeah, it does need to be good. I like the fact that they're setting it in. well, it'll be the 60s, 70s.
Yeah, but it's like an alternate universe 60s. It's
Um,
like a Jetsons kind of 60s vibe,
I
I
like
think.
that. I think I like the
Mm.
suits. I like the actors.
Yeah, they're
I
all
think it's
good.
going to be really good. I'm not quite sure why Galactus is in this one when he could be the next after the mutant saga. It could all lead up to, like, is it Marvel Ultimate Alliance, the game,
Yeah,
where it
I
was
think
all kind of led up to Galactus.
yeah.
I'm assuming that's what they'd have done, so I'm curious why they're having him in it.
Mm.
Um, Maybe if they are doing something like the Jetsons, it'll work with like this kind of futuristic city, having him
Yeah.
walking around. Maybe he's more like a metaphor for something than like an actual being, as long as he's not a cloud.
No, as long as it's not a big space cloud. Uh, I think there were some screenshots of leaked image footage of Galactus of what he was going to look like. I think it was going to pretty much just look like how he is, this big, huge, eats planets.
Because
I think
he's in the trailer, isn't he? Like the last shot.
I don't think they did a trailer. They did like a concept of like test footage. I think that's
That's
what they
right. Because I
showed.
don't think they'd shot anything yet, had they?
No, they've started filming now. They've started building sets as well. But yeah, I think Fantastic Four so far it seems promising. I just think it needs to be good.
It needs to be
Um,
better than the Incredibles.
yeah, exactly. Which we're getting a third film of, which I can't wait for.
That's true. That's another
Yeah,
podcast.
no podcast for another time.
Yeah.
Yeah, Fantastic Four. It does need to be good, especially after Fan Four Stick, which was
Woo! Wow! Wow!
good.
Wow! Wow!
What do you think of Fan Four Stick?
No bueno.
Was that sorry?
No bueno. No good. No good.
I
I don't
remember
think
you.
anyone liked that film.
No, I remember you posted a picture of because I think you and Zoe were doing a rewatch of all the Marvel films leading up to Endgame back in 2019. And you posted a picture of all these DVDs, and I just very jokingly commented on it, being like, "Where's Fan Four Stick? Where's that film at?
In the bin.
in,
That's where
the
it is.
garbage, in the shredder
Yeah, that's where it should
with
be.
logs."
Thing is, I think not to go off topic, but there was some interesting things in that. I like
Yeah,
the fact that it was kind of a bit more body horror.
yeah.
It was just, it wasn't, it was not the Fantastic Four, and that's not Doctor Doom.
No, like Toby Kibble is a great actor. He got the short end of the stick with Doctor Doom, unfortunately.
At least he still had the Planet of the Apes films going for him.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And speaking of Doctor Doom, let's talk about it. RDJ has been cast as Doctor Doom. Uh, right. Let's. It makes sense for this saga. Makes sense what they're doing in the multiverse. That being said, this feels very, very desperate. Very
Yes,
desperate.
if if uh, if it was a what if they got Robert Downey Jr. back, like an alternate universe, which I think they're going to do. Maybe
Mm,
it was Tony Stark lived and then he turned kind of to the dark side. They're probably going to do something with the first Mark One Iron Man mask being the new helmet for Doctor Doom. I'm assuming.
mm, yeah,
It does just seem very desperate. I understand getting the Russo brothers back.
yeah,
I understand there's like a little, uh, like a cameo having Robert Downey Jr. Um, kind of taking over the mantle of Victor Von Doom. I just don't understand why they would have this big presentation at D23.
I think it was Comic Con
Oh,
where
was it
they
Comic
realized.
Con? Sorry.
Yeah, yeah,
I don't understand why they would have this big presentation at Comic Con uh, to reintroduce the most iconic hero of the MCU as now the next big bad guy. It seems very strange to me.
yeah. It's Again, there's potential there for some good conflict, but I think for me,
You
what I
have
want to,
they're gonna have to address it in the film. You know, like
yeah,
there's a small the thing you mentioned earlier with he got rid of the mustache for
yeah,
Captain America. They're gonna have to do something like that where you will have um I'm assuming Falcon will be in it. Make
yeah,
reference to the fact that this villain looks just like um Iron Man. There's
yeah.
no two ways about it.
Yeah, I think what I'm hoping they do is that I just hope it's not a Tony Stark variant that just that turned out to be turned into Doctor Doom and stuff like that. I just hope that he is generally playing Victor Von Doom and he is playing Doctor Doom. He just looks like Tony Stark, and that's where the conflict of the Avengers movies come in. Because the thing with Deadpool and Wolverine is that perfectly established with Chris Evans making his little cameo as Human Torch was that you could have two people looking the same, but they're completely different. Like, do you know what I mean? Like they look the same, but they're different characters in that sense. Because obviously Deadpool like mistakes him for Captain America, but he turns out to be the Human Torch. That's kind of why I hope they do. I just hope that they fully commit to it, where he is playing Victor Von Doom. He just looks like Tony Stark, and that's what they could do for Doomsday, where maybe the sacred timeline is dying. They think to themselves, "Oh, we need an anchor being. We need to find another Tony Stark anchor being." They find one who they think is him, and he comes into the sacred timeline. But then halfway through, like second act twist, oh, it's Von Doom, and
I mean,
he
that's
destroys
very
them.
interesting, and I like the
Mm.
fact that you bring it back to Deadpool Wolverine, where he has to find a version of
Yeah,
Wolverine that he thinks will replace the anchor being. The problem is that would be a nice little reveal. They've kind
yeah,
of
exactly. They've
revealed it
already built it,
already.
didn't they? Mm. Yeah, exactly. But again, it's just one of the things. Again, it could create some good conflict. Like maybe he faces off Pepper. He looks like her husband and love of her life, and they have to have this big massive fight. Maybe he even kills her. Maybe he just like maybe he kills her and stuff like that. It's weird because Doctor Doom is usually very scarred as well, isn't he?
Yes, yeah, I think that's the purpose of him wearing the
The
mask,
mask,
isn't
yeah.
it? Yeah.
Like maybe you could have it where he gets to a big fight with the Avengers, and then that's how he gets the scars on his face. So he has to create a completely new mask. And I don't want it to be the Mark One Iron Man mask. I want this to be the actual proper Doctor Doom, like full on
I
mask.
mean, it'll be kind of like a sort of what Kylo Ren was in
Yeah,
Rise of Skywalker, where it was at some point that helmet, and
yeah,
then it's kind of been smashed and whatever. And like I say, he'll be battle damaged.
mm.
Like Robert Downey Jr. is a really good actor, especially
Oh
you
yeah,
see him in Oppenheimer, which he won the Oscar for. If you told me that this guy is playing Victor Von Doom, I'll go, oh, fair play. I
yeah,
mean, it should go to Viggo Mortensen or Mads Mikkelsen, but hey
mm.
ho. It's just so
Well,
strange to have a massive announcement for it to be. If it was Robert Downey Jr. returning as Iron Man, everyone would lose their shit. Everyone would lose
yeah.
their minds. But the fact that they're bringing him as this such iconic character, Victor Von Doom, it kind of baffles me, and it does reek of desperation.
Exactly, yeah. And it's just, yeah, it does reek of desperation, unfortunately. The Russos coming back to direct. I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm not big on it. I get why they're bringing them back. They are good at direct. They are great directors with when it comes to making MCU films. Their own stuff, bit hit or miss, from what I've heard anyway.
Hit or miss? It's all miss.
It's all miss.
All miss. They
Yeah,
needed the MCU as much as the MCU needed them.
yeah. But at the same time, do you remember when Kang Dynasty was announced? It was going to be directed by the same director as Shang-Chi, Legend of
Yeah,
the Ten Rings.
Destin Daniel Cretton, right?
Yeah, exactly. I was so looking forward to that because I was like, yes, someone new, someone different to add a different flavor, a different spin on an Avengers film. Because again, the Russos are going to do a good job, but I just feel like it's going to feel more of the same, if anything, with them back. And I just wish that, like, there were rumors running around that Sam Raimi was going to do Secret Wars. I would love that.
Yes,
Sam
yeah.
Raimi doing
Especially if
that would be,
Tobey Maguire comes back.
yeah, exactly. Like that would be fantastic.
And Secret Wars in the comics was the black suit, wasn't it?
Yeah,
I think that was
definitely.
the
Yeah.
cover, wasn't it? Yeah, that was the cover.
Mm. So you could get Tom Holland in the black suit, and he brings it back to his world, and well, if they reboot it anyway. It's like
Yeah.
again, like we've seen the Russo brothers do this stuff with the MCU, and I just wish that they stuck to doing something different, something new.
That's true. I think with Disney, especially when it comes to Marvel films, they
Yeah,
seem to kind of groom these indie filmmakers into doing, into basically being yes men, into doing these
yeah,
studio funded things where they've not done action sequences before, but that's okay. We've got a stunt department and we've
mm,
got a visual effects department who can generate all these fight sequences in post, and you just have to be there to direct these performances. So you get
yeah,
um, Destin Daniel Cretton, who had done some Brie Larson uh, independent drama films, who was then
Mm,
brought on to do Shang-Chi. You
yeah,
had the guys who did, or was it the couple who did Captain Marvel? Previously, they had
yeah,
done just a few drama films. Um,
yeah,
Chloe Zhao, who directed Nomadland, which won the Oscar, all these
yeah,
indie dramas, was
yep,
then hired to do Eternals. So it seems that all these films have kind of had the same voice because it's the same creative team essentially greenlighting these films and crafting these films in post.
mm,
So finally, you get someone like a James Gunn who does something different, who has a voice
yeah,
with the Guardians films, which is why they
yep,
feel different than the Avengers films, which were kind of Joss Whedon back in the day. And now they've
mm,
kind of have had the same formula. As much as I love Infinity War, I do agree that they kind of feel like
yeah,
just studio uh, film, big blockbuster films by committee.
mm. No, I get that. Um, I do, yeah, I definitely get what you mean. And I think the thing with Marvel, from what I've read up on, is that they create the action sequences first, and then that's how they write the story around it. So for them, it's action first, story second, compared to how it's normally, story first, action second. But
Compared to how it
uh,
should be done.
how it should be. um, and yeah, you're right. They are because at the end of the day, when the directors are hired, they're making a film for Marvel, not their own
I
project.
always
So
find it interesting when Ant-Man was originally going to be Edgar Wright,
you're right, yeah.
and then they got rid of him and hired someone whose previous film was called Yes Man. I find it quite ironic.
So, what do you think will happen in Avengers: Doomsday and Secret Wars? What's your big hope for them?
A big hope is just that the good. I think
Mm.
what initially was going to be with the Kang Dynasty, because that was going to be two films as well, wasn't it? I
I
think
think Kang Dynasty was going to be one, but
I
I
think it
think
was
Secret
Kang
Wars.
Dynasty leading straight into Secret Wars.
Yeah,
I, so I have a feeling they're going to basically just kind of reinvent or remake, like the way that The Force Awakens was a remake of A New Hope. I think they're going to do that with Infinity War and Endgame, where they're going to have this team in Doomsday, this team of Avengers in Doomsday who are like the new recruits, Shang-Chi, Falcon, all these people coming together, and they're going to lose, and then they have to basically recruit a, a bigger team to fight in Secret War. Secret Wars. I think from what I've heard, I don't know if it's the leak or just because I don't think I've actually read Secret Wars. I just know of it.
yeah,
It's something to do with Battle World. It's
yeah.
something,
Battle World. Yeah,
but I think that's all going to be in Secret Wars. I think
yeah,
Doomsday is basically just going to be a fairly standard Age of Ultron style Avengers film, whereas it's
yeah,
going to jump straight from that to the new Endgame, which is going to be
yeah.
Secret Wars, and
Secret
then
Wars.
from that, kind of reinvent and bringing the X Men into it. Although I think they kind of have to be in Secret Wars as well. They've got a lot of people they have to introduce in order to make Secret Wars work and be
Yeah,
faithful.
yeah, exactly. Well, I think well, again, like I said before, and I can see them going back to get a Tony Stark anchor being, like, and it turns out to be Doom. One thing I might be interested in is that maybe, he succeeds, he wipes out the secret timeline, he destroys the TVA, he creates Battle World, and then maybe instead you could have an Avengers team, but it's made up of all of the legacy characters. So Tim Maguire's Spider Man, Andrew Garfield's Spider Man, Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, all the old X Men cast, Ben Affleck's Daredevil, all the old but Wesley Snipes' Blade. They're all coming back, and they're all kind of like, we need to fight off Doctor Doom. We need to reset everything and bring the
It's going
sacred
to be
timeline
all
back.
fan service, isn't it?
Pretty much, yeah.
The
But
whole film will just be fan service, which is what we kind of thought that Deadpool Wolverine would be, but it wasn't.
yeah, pretty much, yeah. I think we felt that Spider-Man No Way Home was going to be like that as well, wasn't it?
Kind of was.
Yeah, but it was still pretty good though.
It
I think.
it was, and it reintroduced two great villains who are also great even now
Oh
with
yeah.
a Doctor Octopus and Willem Dafoe as the
Mm.
Green Goblin.
Definitely, yeah. I love those two villains. I'm glad they brought them back for for Tom Holland's Spider Man. I think I'm hoping they do their own MCU versions though. To be honest, and at some point in the future, I'd love to see what the MCU versions of like MCU proper versions of Willem Dafoe of like Green Goblin, Doc Ock, see how they get played out.
Yeah,
I'd love
you
to
can't
see
just
like
keep relying on the nostalgia that the audience
yeah,
brings.
mm, yeah, exactly. Great new versions from the ground up. Like maybe have I don't know who's it Bryan Cranston be Norman Osborn. Though he's probably too old now, but
I
a
know
few
that
years
was the
ago,
rumor back in the day, wasn't it?
yeah, a few years ago that would have been great. But Leonardo DiCaprio, have him be Norman Osborn. Why not?
Why not? Matthew
Yeah,
McConaughey, all
Matthew
these
McConaughey.
fan castings.
Yeah,
Austin Butler as
definitely.
Gambit.
Mm,
That's my one.
yeah, and then last thing from D23 is Blade actually getting made? Because I don't know if you noticed, Dan, but when they did their release schedule recently, Blade's not on it.
Is it not?
No, Blade's not on it.
Wow, that's been
It's been
in
removed.
production hell. That film.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I think that Wesley Snipes. I think Mahershala Ali is gonna drop out as Blade.
I think it's kind of like the whole drama with Joaquin Phoenix now dropping out of this film that was going to be shooting next week. And I
Yeah,
think all the
exactly.
producers were kind of hinging on the fact that he was somewhat of a name. And since dropping out, all the investors have just pulled out, and it's kind of a complete disaster. If Mahershala Ali pulls out,
Mm,
which I knew he was going to play him from seeing Alita Battle Angel, as soon as I
yeah,
saw him in that, I'm going right. He is going to be fan cast as Blade. And then I think
yeah,
from the Oscar wins that he got, he messaged Kevin Feige to be
yeah,
involved in the MCU. That was probably
yeah.
6 years ago
That was
when
yeah
Green Book
five
came
six years
out.
ago.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And there's
and
been no
then
progress. They keep kind of adding from the rumors, they keep trying to make him a secondary character in his own film. Uh, I, it shouldn't be that hard to make a film where there's a half human, half vampire. Or, what is it? All the strengths, none of their weaknesses.
yeah,
Who goes out and kills vampires? Even if they don't have to um, establish it in the MCU, I always thought they were going to make it like a period piece where it would
yeah.
be set in, I'm going to say the 60s in America, like Harlem, like Luke Cage, the aesthetic that had.
Oh yeah,
The
definitely that.
first
Mm,
Blade comics, he wasn't the Blade that we know, which was kind of this post Matrix looking Blade. It was this, he had the afro, he had the leather jacket. It's like this like maroon leather jacket,
yeah,
like a bandolier around him. It was kind of
mm,
60s, 70s inspired, kind of like Shaft, the Shaft films. I thought they were going
yeah,
to do something like that where they could, like they are with Fantastic Four, having it in like an alternate 60s, doing something similar with Blade, just as like a little spin off film.
mm,
Because even if, like I say, Marvel can do a Blade film, I don't think it has to be part of the MCU. It could just be its
yeah.
own thing,
Elseworlds.
like what the Batman is, the Matt Reeves film,
Yeah,
to the new James Gunn series. It could
exactly.
just be
Yeah,
something that goes alongside it, and if he wants to come into Secret Wars, you can. But just Mahershala Ali didn't sign up to be in an Avengers film. He wanted to just be Blade, and I think they're
yeah,
kind of having difficulty establishing him in this world where you have a talking raccoon. And I
yeah,
think by introducing vampires, it kind of opens up this whole other um, storyline that they've not touched upon yet, where, oh, vampires exist now.
mm,
When they're trying to do
yeah,
that with mutants, where it's, all mutants exist. Maybe they're doing
yeah.
too much.
Maybe, yeah. I mean, I just think it's really sad that you get two-time Oscar winner Mahershala Ali as Blade, and you
And
just
Mia
do.
Goth as Lilith.
Oh
Mia
yeah,
Goth, who's, I don't know if you've seen the X films, Maxine, Pearl. Fantastic. She's the actress to watch now if you're a fan of genre films.
yeah. I think I've heard of her. I think I've seen her around a few like trailers and stuff. Maxine, yeah, yeah. I know who you
Maxine,
mean.
yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, like but you mess him around, and like I can just picture him now getting really pissed off and just being like, "Look, I've had to, turn down so many projects just to get because he's that committed to Blade. He's turned down so many projects. It's gone to the point now where he's like, I'm gonna have to take the new Jurassic World film because I'm not getting any money for this. I haven't paid me so far because like, where's my project? Where's my Blade film? he had to bring on a writer that he's friends with who did True Detective to write the script, and now the script's being written again and again and again, and
The
it's getting
director
to
pulled out, didn't he? I think
yeah, the second one, they've lost their second
the
director.
second one, I think it's been rewritten 5 times.
Yeah, it's just it's an embarrassing man. It's embarrassment. It's an embarrassment now. And I just think Mahershala Ali is just better off dropping out and just letting somebody else play Blade because I think Marvel should just call off Blade completely. And then when the next saga comes in, which could be the Mutant Saga, just have that be where you put
I
your
think
new
have
Blade.
like a Splinter series from Deadpool Wolverine. Go off and have a standalone Gambit film with Channing Tatum, which isn't part of the MCU. You could
Oh
have
yeah,
their version of Gambit, but just have that. You could have equivalent of Blade 4 with Wesley
yeah,
Snipes
exactly.
because that's what we
Yeah,
all want to see. I mean, it was so good to see him, but at the same time, I'm such a big fan of those films, all three of them. I love Blade Trinity,
mm,
um, and there's so much that could be done with that. And I just love Wesley Snipes anyway. He's such a great actor, and he
yeah,
still has the physique, at least
mm,
his stunt double does.
yeah,
Although I'm pretty sure that was him fighting in Deadpool Wolverine.
yeah. I'm pretty sure it was. I can't imagine him, but I can't imagine him getting somebody else to do his own stunts. To be honest.
No, but I think as well, like that's it for Blade. And I don't think he was going to play a part in Secret Wars anyway.
Mm,
So I think they could just hold out and do it after that. But
yeah.
I mean, Mahershala Ali's getting on. He's not
Yeah,
really
no, he
done
is.
action films, has he?
No, no, I don't think so. He
So at
he
least
was
with Wesley
in
Snipes, he can fight.
yeah. I mean, he was in Luke Cage season one. He played Cottonmouth. I think that was the closest he got to like action based stuff. Like, because obviously there's that scene where he punches that guy to death in the club and stuff like that. But yeah,
But
I
not really
mean,
martial arts. Not that Blade
not really
had to
much
be
else. No.
martial arts, but you could do something like Equilibrium or John Wick or something like that. But the action has to really stand out for Blade because it was so good in the previous trilogy.
Yeah, no, I guess I get what you mean with that. It's just one of those things where some motherfuckers are still trying to skate uphill, trying to skate
I
uphill,
like
and
it.
it's like, and yeah, I just
I was
think
born ready, motherfucker.
yeah, I think they just need to cancel it, shelve it, bring it back at some point when you're ready to do it and ready to develop it better. And yeah, that's pretty much it with Blade.
I
I
mean, they've
think
not rushed it.
no,
They've
if not,
they've not been rushing it. I don't understand.
no, they've taken their time, but I think it's just I think trying to fit him in the universe is just a hard thing for them to crack and for him to crack and stuff. And yeah, I just think that they need to shelve it, wait for this reboot after Secret Wars, and then introduce him. Like, I think that'll probably be your better fit to like include him in the Marvel Cinematic Universe a lot more
It'll
easier.
it'll probably be like, is it Midnight Suns, where it's
Yeah, Midnight
um,
Suns. Yeah,
Ghost
because
Rider, Blade, things like that.
there's been rumors running around that they want to do that that team up,
That'd be
that team
cool.
up. Yeah, bring Nicolas Cage back as a Ghost Rider. 'Cause why not?
Shit, yeah,
He was
too
supposed
right.
to be in Deadpool Wolverine, but he turned it down.
I'm surprised. Maybe he got burnt with the Flash. He didn't want
Yeah.
to do this multiverse thing anymore because that was terrible.
Mm. I mean, I didn't mind the Flash to be honest. I thought it was good enough, but I did like seeing him as Superman though. I'm interested. I want to see that movie now. Superman
It's. I
Lives.
think. I think the Flash is what this film could have been
If handled badly, or
if handled badly. Yes.
mm, yeah, um, yeah, I can see where you're coming from with that. Yeah. Oh god. But yeah, final thoughts on Deadpool and Wolverine. Good movie,
Oh yeah,
very enjoyable.
Deadpool Wolverine. What
Yeah,
we're here to talk about.
well, that's what we're wrapping up our thoughts on now.
Mhm.
Yeah, so Deadpool and Wolverine is a great film, very enjoyable, funny, engaging. Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman are great. The cameos are fantastic. If you still haven't seen it yet and sat for this anyways, what's wrong with you? Go see it. It's still in cinemas now. Like it's great. What's your final thoughts, Dan?
Basically everything that you said, Connor.
Yeah,
You nailed it. Yeah, that was.
yeah,
I don't think I can really add anything to that. It was just. It was
yeah,
all it had to be was a good time in the
yeah.
cinema with
Mm,
no politics. Just forget everything that's happening in the world and just go in and just kind of enjoy the next 2 hours.
mm,
It might not be more than that for some people, but for me, as a comic book fan, it was kind of this somewhat of a dream come true. It was kind of what most people got out of Spider-Man: No Way Home.
yeah.
This was that to me.
That's fair
This
enough.
was kind of this felt like my No Way Home because that era of superhero films from the late 90s to 2008, I'm really quite partial to.
Mm.
So again, to have all these cameos come in and guest appearances, it just kind of felt like, I don't know, just a not a passing of a torch, but just a tribute, which the end credits showcase to this Green
Yeah.
Day song, you know. And I did. I had the time of my life, to quote
Mm.
their lyrics.
Yeah. How would you rate it out of 5 and out of 10?
Um, okay, right, okay, yeah. So I'll do it a 7 out of 10,
Mm.
and that basically means that it should be 3.5 out of 5. I'd
Yeah.
probably lean in terms of the quality of the story, probably 3. But in
Mm.
terms of enjoyment, it's a 4. There's not many films that get me to want to see it again a
Yeah.
couple of days after seeing it the first time. But
Mm.
this was one of them.
Yeah.
So, you know what? For the sake of this, I'm feeling generous. It's a nice sunny Wednesday here. So I'm going to say it's a 4 out of 5.
I I think for me, out of 5, yeah, I'll give it a 4, and out of 10, I'll give it a 7. So, yeah, go see the movie if you haven't yet. But there's another movie you should go see. Dan McGee's new short film. So, Dan, why don't you tell the audience about the new short film you got coming out?
What a segue. I bet you've got that written down, haven't you?
Yeah, yeah, I do. Yeah,
Have you? Okay. Well,
yeah.
it's still in later stages of post production. It's
Mm.
not a feature, it's just a short film.
Yeah.
Like most of my others, it'll probably just kind of go on YouTube and collect virtual dust, get a couple of hundred views, but that's okay for me. Yeah, it's a short horror film that we shot a couple of months back, um, about a girl who kind of becomes involved in this online trend.
Mm.
We just kind of wanted to do a horror film that was quite marketable, something that looked like it could be like a Blumhouse type thing, something
Yeah.
that if it wanted to be picked up, there is a feature film there, or if it
Yeah.
just ends up being this short film, I'm cool with that. So in terms of where it is currently, um, the editing's done, the boxed edit is done. We're recording a live soundtrack this weekend with my cousin,
Mm.
but the live soundtrack's going to basically be like a load of kind of industrial noises and sounds with the electric guitar. It's not really going to be a score.
Okay.
Um, so we're just kind of like experimenting a bit in post, but the edit is done. I have a feeling in a couple of weeks the film will be done because I'm moving
Nice.
on with a music video that we're
Oh,
shooting in
nice.
a couple of weekends away. So I kind
Mm.
of want to just get off my ass and finish this short film, really.
Yeah.
And outside of that, like I say, that'll be on YouTube. If you go on my Instagram, if you don't mind me plugging that,
Yeah. Yeah. No
um,
problem. I'll put it in the description.
yeah, nice one. McGee, myself, and I. You'll see the poster for it, which I did. There probably won't be a trailer because the film itself is only about 5 minutes long. You don't really want to give the ending away. But
Yeah.
yeah, moving on to a music video, and then I've got 2 more days on a feature film that my friend is making. I've worked with
Oh,
him
nice.
before last year, a little indie thing.
Mm.
We've done 2 days. We've got 2 more days booked, and then I'm casting another short film that will be shooting later this year as well. And also
Nice.
from the guy who did Venom,
Oh,
we're
wow.
doing a Half Life, not the Venom film, the fan
Oh, the
film of
fan film.
Venom.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll be a bit. Well, I'm excited anyway. I don't want to say
Yeah.
that, but yeah, he's doing a Half Life film, which I'm casting. So yeah, look out for that.
Nice one, nice one. Yeah. But everybody, so thank you so much for tuning in for today's episode. Visit all the links down in the description below, and we will see you whenever we see you next.
Bye bye bye.